good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District meeting to order. The date is Thursday, December 15th. The time is 9:03 a.m. So the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District Governing Board first in-person meeting we have had in a while. We have board members participating in person at our office in Fresno, Bakersfield, and Modesto. We will do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with public participation via Zoom and webcast. Before we begin, here are some important guidelines and general instructions for the meeting. Please silence your other communication devices, such as your cell phones. During the meeting, all public participants will be placed on mute by the host. Public members will not be able to mute or unmute manually. Audio for members of the public will be unmuted once they are recognized to make public comment. After each agenda item, the chair will announce public comment. The clerk will recognize any public attendees who have indicated that they wish to speak. With that, I'm going to move on to a roll call.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Bessinger, Mr. Chiesa,
Here.
Mr. Couch, Ms. Fugazi, Ms. Lewis,
Here.
Mr. Mendez,
Here.
Dr. Pacheco Werner, Mr. Pereira, Mr. Peterson,
Here.
Mr. Preciado,
Here.
Mr. Rickman, Dr. Sheriff,
Here.
Ms. Shuklian,
Here.
Mr. Wheeler.
Here in person.
Great. Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I'm going to ask everyone to please stand, and I'm going to ask Member Wheeler to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Get ready to salute the greatest flag in the whole world, and thank you for all of our service people that's made it possible we can have these type of meetings. Ready? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Thank you. So everyone knows it's the holiday season. I typically wouldn't wear a tie, but we only have so many opportunities to wear Christmas ties. And then Member Wheeler shows up. And if you could just pan over, he shows up in his full regalia. I love it. Thank you for bringing the Christmas spirit for sure. And I love looking in the audience and seeing children. That always brings,
Best thing in the world.
is fantastic, because someday you'll be sitting up here, we hope, making good decisions for the Valley. All right, we are going to move on to, just need to stay in order here, item number 4, which is the approval of the consent calendar.
Move to approve.
Okay. Second. All right, now I'm going to ask, there are no comments from the board members regarding this? All right. Do we still have to do a roll call, or can I do general consent? All right.
Well, we need public comment
Public
in the
comment.
regions as well, and
Public
locally.
comment.
There is no public comment in the Fresno office or online. Bakersfield, is there any public comment?
There's no public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Any in Modesto?
There is no public comment in Modesto.
Great, thank you. We're good.
Roll call.
Welcome. Through the chair, Ms. Pacheco Werner has joined the meeting. Mr. Chiesa,
Aye.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Mendez,
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Werner,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Aye.
Mr. Preciado. Dr. Sheriff,
Yes.
Ms. Shuklian,
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Perfect. Going to move on to item 5, which is a public comment period. Time made available for anyone in the public who wants to speak on something that is not on today's posted agenda and is in the jurisdiction of this board. The public, and I already went through the rules, and I'm going to look to my right, Adriana.
Yes. We do have a public comment online.
Okay.
Ms. Janet Dietz-Gamay.
Good morning, Janet.
Good morning, board and board chair and staff. I'd like to speak about climate change. We know that we need to be doing renewables. We know that we need to be moving away from gas and other sources of carbon. As more turbines have gone up, costs have plunged. Just in the past decade, the price of offshore wind energy has declined by half. Onshore wind has grown even faster, and its cost too has plummeted. In many parts of the world, it's now cheaper to put up turbines than it is to operate an existing power plant that burns natural gas. In places with a lot of wind, there's sometimes so much power pouring into the grid that producers have to pay to get rid of it. The price of solar power, meanwhile, has declined even more spectacularly. Since 2010, it's dropped by more than 80%, according to the International Energy Agency. Solar power now offers some of the lowest cost electricity ever seen. The rapidly falling price of renewables makes it possible to imagine a not too distant future in which the US and the world generates all its electricity emissions-free. Already, there are brief periods on the order of minutes when California can produce enough electricity from renewables to meet its demand. And we have just learned recently that we have the infancy of a new source of renewable energy called fusion. We have been working worldwide to get to this point. And there is hope that in a decade or so, we can rely on fusion and entirely get away from the sources of carbon we now use. This is exciting. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
No further comment online or in public. Any comment in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Any public comment in Modesto?
There is no public comment in Modesto.
Okay, that concludes that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Move on to item 6, which is recognition of the 2023 Kids Calendar winners.
Yes. We're going to go through a couple of rounds of applause, I would imagine here. I just want a quick introduction to the item here. One of the most exciting things that we do every year is put together our Healthier Living Kids calendar. It's just a great opportunity to highlight the air quality issues, but more importantly, get the future of our valley involved in thinking about clean air and engaging them and using their amazing artistic talents to really help communicate this message in ways that resonates well beyond anything I could ever say, publicly. And just so excited to have these kids here that took time out of their busy schedules. I was just talking to one of the kids, for example, who actually had to rearrange her whole final schedule just to be here to partake with our board and be highlighted, be thanked, and be recognized for their wonderful art and for really making our calendar once again just a beautiful calendar for the public to share. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jamie Holt, our Outreach and Communications Officer, to walk through the introductions and to really do a better job than I just did introducing how amazing this calendar is this year.
Good morning. Every year, as Samir said, we do put together a kids calendar. It highlights 14 student artists. That's the 12 months of the year plus January of the next year. For example, this will have January of 2024 in it. And of course, our coveted spot of the cover artist. We print a few thousand of these, 20,000 of them, and we actually give them out to schools primarily. It's a great way for us to engage both those schools that are really strong partners with us, and then we actually use it as a bit of a carrot to engage those schools that maybe haven't had as robust conversations with us. It's a great way, as Samir said, to involve students early on. We've had kindergartners in the past all the way up through high school students, and you'll see on the walls of our buildings, we also have the artwork framed and just to help kind of decorate our building. All of the students get small prize packages that include a certain number of calendars for them to distribute to their friends and family. The grand prize, and they also get a small little gift card. The grand prize winner, which is our cover artist, gets a little bit bigger gift card, plus a bunch of district kind of fun outreach items. With that, we are going to announce the winners. I'm going to have them stand as we announce the winners, and I'm getting the assistance of Heather Hines, the manager in the communications team, and then Anna Stone, who's actually our senior bilingual ed rep, who is the graphic designer who takes all of these pictures and actually pulls them together to make it a really wonderful calendar. We're going to start in the north. We have the north up on screen. I see Kathy Benati up there, and we have our September artist. And I do want to apologize in advance. I have practiced all the names, but if I don't get it right, I apologize. Up in the north, our September artist is Millie Johal. She is a third grader from St. Anthony School in Atwater, and she is here with her mom, I believe. She also has her dad and a twin brother and a little sister. Millie, thank you so much. Next, if we can, yes. If I can have Marlene say something.
Why don't you ask her if she has anything to say?
Oh, sure. Millie, do you want to say anything?
Come on.
We do want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Better with her drawing.
In the South, and if Marlene, if someone in the South can just say something so that you all can become big on our screen, that would be great. But in the South, we have our August artist. August artist, this was not planned. Her first name is also Millie. Millie.
Hi, Millie.
Pardon me? Can you
I was
say
just saying hi.
something?
Are we on your screen now?
Not yet. Not yet.
Keep talking, Marlene.
All righty. Millie's
There
a
we
little
go.
shy, and I don't think she wants to speak, just so you guys know.
Okay. Millie Mukila, I practiced it. Mukia. Millie Mukia, who is a third grader from Pioneer School in Delano. And I think she might be there with her dad. She didn't drive by herself to Bakersfield this morning. Also, we just want to recognize attending via Zoom, I believe, is Millie's principal at Pioneer School in Delano, and that's Anna Wyatt. We are so grateful for the school principals and teachers who often play a key role in this. Congratulations, Millie. Next, we'll come here to Central, and I'll announce all four folks, and then if the kids want to come up to the podium and say something they can. We'll start with our July artist, Tabitha Hitchman. Tabitha, if you want to stand up. Tabitha is a ninth grader from Sierra Pacific High School in Hanford, and she's here with her mom, Stephanie Hitchman. Our October artist, Aranza Garcia, who's a second grader from Malaga Elementary School in Fresno. She's here with her mom, Sylvia Garcia. Our May artist, who I think just arrived, is Miguel Cabrera. He is a sixth grader from James Monroe Elementary in Madera. And I think he's here with his mom. Yes, he's here with his mom, Anna Giron. And then our most coveted spot is our cover artist, of course. This year it is Sienna Valdivia, who is a fourth grader from Redwood Elementary in Shafter. She's here with her mom, her dad, her stepmom, and her stepdad. Also attending via Zoom is Sienna's teacher, Yumiko Simpson, who's down at Shafter Redwood Elementary. If you could all stand.
How about,
Okay, all stand right here. Heather's going to stand right over there. Look at Heather.
Look this way.
No, wait, we want the photo. You guys want
You give in.
His idea.
No.
Want to go down there?
No, they'll turn around.
There we
Oh,
go.
you're
1,
fine.
2, 3.
Yeah.
More dice, look my way. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
We also have some students who were unable to attend in person, and we have them on Zoom. We have actually two students from Edison High School in San Joaquin County. They're attending with their teacher. We've got Aurelia Theret Vidrio Calderon, who's our February artist, and Elise, did I say that right, Anna? I think I got it wrong. Dukes, who's our December artist. And they are 11th graders from Edison High School in San Joaquin County, and they're here with their teacher, Selena Gonzalez Cortez. And I think if they can wave, if they're here, give us a wave, that would be great. We also have our April artist attending, who is Erica Matties, who's an 8th grader from Elizabeth Eustis Middle School in Modesto. She's attending with her counselor, Vanessa Landa. If you're here, give us a wave on Zoom. And our June artist, Felix Hernandez, who's an 8th grader from Haven Drive Middle School in Arvin. We also have, and just real quick, if you all are on Zoom, thank you so much. If you want to say anything, you're welcome to. All right, and then we do have some artists who were not able to attend. Our November artist, Genesis Esparza, she's an 8th grader from Haven Drive Middle School in Arvin. Our January 2024 artist, who's Caitlin Lee, a 6th grader from Young Elementary in Fresno. Our March artist, who's Sebastian Jones, a 1st grader from Frank Cohen Elementary in Tulare. And our January artist, Evelyn, who we allow kids, if they don't want to give us their last name, they don't have to. That's a parent decision. So Evelyn from 6th grade, a 6th grader in Valley Oaks Charter School in Bakersfield. Last thing I want to mention for anyone that is in the audience or might be listening, we take entries year round. So if you know of anyone, there are any kids in your life, we would love to have them look at this calendar, see some of the air quality messages that are in the calendar. They're not water messages, they're not recycling messages, they're air quality messages, but we would love it if folks would send in entries for next year. With that, I'll turn it back over to the board.
Thank you, Jamie. And I must say, I want to thank all of the kids for taking time to do this. I want to thank the parents. Sienna, you came from Shafter. Your parents drove you here. It is amazing, and for people to have creative nature, to be creative, it usually comes from somewhere in the family. And so I thank you. And to the teachers online, you should be proud of your kids. We're very proud of them. And I think this is just wonderful. And we've decorated, as you walk out today, look on the wall and you'll see past winners, and they're beautiful pictures. So thank you very much for coming, both in Bakersfield and Modesto, and those of you who showed up here today. Appreciate it. Any other comments on the board? Deborah?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we have the young lady from Bakersfield who said she wanted to address the board.
Did she? I thought she did not want to address.
Oh,
the
I
board.
thought she did. Okay, maybe I'm incorrect.
Would you like to speak? I should know.
No.
That was Millie.
Maybe I was forced.
Thank you, Millie, for being there. Yeah, very nice. Anyone else? Yeah, please. Dr. Sheriffs?
Thank you. And I just want to share the thanks for everybody's participation in this. And I look forward to this calendar every year. I look forward to having it up on my wall. It's a great reference. And it always reminds me, the kids get it. They get it. They're an inspiration to the work we do, because this is the future. So thank you all. Thank you, parents. Thank you for the submissions. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, you can actually go back to school and do your finals now.
Oh, man.
Through the chair, Mr. Bessinger and Mr. Pereira have joined the meeting.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to move on to item 7. I'll just wait 1 second.
Oh, yeah.
I can see each one of the kids are walking out with more than one calendar, a box of them, and they're going to be autographing at their schools.
Yeah, blue artists, man.
Yeah.
Recognized artist.
Buy them for $1 each.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to item 7, which is a report on District Citizens Advisory Committee activities. And I'm assuming Manuel? We are on to item 7, Citizens Advisory Committee activities. Take your time.
Good morning, Manuel Cunha, Nisei Farmers League, Chair of the CAC. I want to thank the board. In my what's the district been, 29 years, 27 years, 23 years? I have never seen a board member ever come to a meeting where I didn't recognize the board member. And the person is waving to me in the back, and you ruined me. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Must be Dr. Sheriff, huh?
Yeah, right. Again, thank you very much. Great presentation on the kids' calendar, and that is true. One of the greatest things we got going is in the hallway and all those pictures when you first started doing that. And congratulations to the district and Samir for you guys to continue that process, and Jamie and her entire team. So again, congratulations to all the winners. And also, before we forget, those members of the board that will be leaving us from the CAC standpoint, we thank you for all the years of dedication that you have given to this district and to the CAC. So thank you for that. In your packet, you have the report from the CAC, which had ARB presentation on the new car program 2. Electrification that was presented by ARB discussions, and then also was the ozone plan, and you'll be having a discussion of that today. Quite an excitement of discussion, and I know that Jesse and also Ryan Hashi attended. Also spoke about the staff. I guess study session. And that was a tremendous success by many of the members of the CAC. We're very happy to hear that and the report that came back. So again, congratulations on that. But in your packet is the ozone discussion to move forward with it and to make things happen in a positive way for this district and to get things done, but also to do things that the members of the CAC want to make sure that we cover all those areas of the ozone plan and make sure it's done right and correctly. So again, in your packet is the report, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer, including with Miss or Mrs. Wheeler or whatever. Okay. Mr. Chair, you got your hands full today.
Yeah.
But if there's any questions, please, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Any questions, Emmanuel?
I make a statement.
You can make a statement.
When, probably 29 years ago, when I first started coming to board meetings from up in the mountains, because they were putting the fee on doing control burns up there, which we were trying to control our forest before the environmentalists took them over. I'd come down here, and the first thing I'd do is walk in and say, God, I just love coming down this Taj Mahal. And finally, he cut me aside one day, and he says, hey, Tom, he said, if you go a little bit easier and don't be so radical, we'll probably get something done. And I'll never forget that, because he'd come to me and trying to calm me down a little bit. Me and Larry Ballou, we come down to almost every meeting to raise hell. So thank you, Manuel. I'm going to miss that.
It didn't work.
No. Well,
Absolutely
tried, though,
correct, Chair. It did not work. Thank you again, though, very much. And Tom, thank you for everything you have done. You've been a great member of this board in this valley and care about the health of our communities and jobs and everything. But thank you, and best for you as well, too. Thank you.
Thank you much. Any comments online?
No.
All right. We will move on to item 8, recognition of the outgoing governing board members, Vice Mayor Fugazi, Supervisor Peterson, and Supervisor Wheeler.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to tee up this item, but certainly will just be the first word in recognizing the tremendous service that our board members have dedicated to the San Joaquin Valley, all of our residents, obviously the staff and the board here, and furthering our clean air mission. It is a very sad moment for all of us, because these board members have been just tremendous parts of so many accomplishments these last number of years that they've been on the board. I've got a few just quick comments about each board member, and I know they may have some words to share with the board and the staff and the public, as well as I'm sure other board members do as well. We do have some really beautiful plaques for these board members as well, and hopefully we get a chance to get a couple of photos here as well as we celebrate their service and recognize them for that service. Just real quick, I just want to provide a couple of comments about each board member, starting with Supervisor Tom Wheeler, who we all know is sitting here at the dais with us, just looking amazing as usual. Supervisor Wheeler has lived in the valley for over half a century. You've been here for over 50 years. You're from the valley. You're a part of the valley. You were elected
Actually, 80
to
years, I was born in Fresno.
you were elected to the County Board of Supervisors in '07 and joined the board in 2013. So it's almost been a decade that you've been on our board. You served as the board chair in 2015, and you've had a passion for the residents of Eastern Madera County. All of us here who've heard your comments and have seen you work in your capacity have seen just how passionate you are about the residents and the issues and the health of the wildlands surrounding the valley. That's something that's been a very big source of passion for you, and you've tirelessly advocated for healthy forest management. We have a very robust platform for many years now that you've been instrumental in putting together. You've taken special interest in air quality issues, especially as they relate to the impacts of the drought, bark beetle, the forest health, and all the major issues that we've been trying to tackle with respect to that. You've been a key proponent in making sure that residents that live in our more mountainous communities have access to our programs, that their issues are understood, rural community issues are understood, that they can equitably participate in everything that we're doing. So you've been a tremendous voice for your residents and other residents throughout the valley that face similar challenges. And you've really set the bar for engagement. You've held town halls in your communities where you invited residents and us to come and directly talk to your residents about the issues and opportunities. And you've never been one to shy away from tough issues. That's something I think everybody here can agree with. You've always been counted on to share your thoughts and weigh in and really help make our strategies as good as they can possibly be. We're going to miss your personal style, your colorful neckties. When we were putting these comments together, I didn't realize that the bar is even higher now than even when we had thought about this. So, and
Watch it there, buddy.
and I know I speak for all of us when I say that we wish you well in the next chapter of your life. We know you're going to be extremely active, even if you're not on our board or the county board. So we wish you well. Just really quick, want to pivot over to Supervisor Craig Peterson, who is another longstanding board member. You've been on the board since 2015, on the county board since 2015. That's getting close to a decade as well. You've lived in Kings County most of your life. You're a valley person, valley resident who is a multi-generational family farmer who understands the issues that farmers deal with, have brought that perspective into all of our conversations here, the issues the industry faces, and really trying to make sure that we develop good strategies that actually work, that are actually feasible, but that actually move the ball forward in helping us tackle our clean air issues here in the San Joaquin Valley. You were the board chair for 2 years, and that's not an easy role to play. And it was 2 years during which I was relatively new to my role. And so you were instrumental to me personally in really helping to guide me and just keep this agency moving in a positive direction, continuing to achieve more as we keep working around our tough challenges here. You helped us navigate our way through the COVID-19, the early days of the pandemic. Obviously, that was challenging, just thinking about how we would respond and make sure that we were providing the services that we needed to provide. And you've dealt on so many, or you've been involved in so many of the complex valley issues that your voice and your knowledge and your wisdom and looking at all the plans and everything that we do. You got experience in water. You were on the Central Valley Regional Water Board for a while. You just bring a lot of well-rounded perspective to everything that we do here, and it's going to be a tremendous loss for us. You've always been willing to travel as well. I mean, we've done a lot of advocacy, whether it's Sacramento, whether it's Washington, D.C., to really tee up our issues and bring resources back to our region so we can support our Valley stakeholders and moving forward with our mission here. And you've always been a tremendous force in all of those various advocacy efforts that we've made. So with a passion for aviation, for those of you who don't know, Supervisor Peterson is a pilot. We wish you well as you metaphorically fly off into the sunset. Thank you, Jamie. And I'll just close with one last personal note that I mentioned before. Both of these board members, and we did talk about Council Member Vice Mayor Fugazi at the study sessions. That's why I didn't spend more time talking about her tremendous service as well. But we knew that was her last meeting, so there were some comments made at that meeting. Both of you have just been tremendous mentors for me personally, for our staff. You really always show appreciation to our staff, and you interact not only with myself but with our entire team. it means the world to us, all that you provided to us in terms of the leadership and the wisdom and the guidance, and you will be missed very much. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Chair. I do have a couple of plaques that I would like to just highlight on the screen really quick for the public to see. I would like to take a couple of photos, if possible, with you, Mr. Chair, and the outgoing board members, and then I'll turn it back to you for any other comments that they may want to make or the board may want to make.
Before, I want to let the two members speak first before we say something about it. And I'll start with you, Tom, if that's okay.
Well, it's been an honor to be on here. When Ron Domenici, the old days before the governor stopped it, we could have alternates on each one of them. So I was Ron Domenici's alternate for a few meetings, so I got my feet wet on it besides coming down here raising hell about burning permits. But I've learned so much from this, and when we lose our CAO and got Samir and our lawyer, we got Annette, we hardly missed a step. I think we did a really good job picking those to run our organization. I still think and I brag about it every place I go, but we're number one in the whole United States as an air board for putting out new stuff, keeping everybody informed. And I really can't thank all the staff. Nard, how do you say his name? He's helped me with my IT stuff. Ryan and Jamie and everybody coming up to my town halls, which I think is very, very important. I have 7 communities up there, and they're all different. And so I had when I vowed when I first got elected 16 years ago that I would always have town halls, and anything that we came up different that would affect us in the mountains, they would come up and campaign for me. So they didn't hear it from Wheeler saying I was making it up or something. When you have experts backing you up, it makes a big, big difference. And I really appreciated that. And it's helped me to get elected all the time. I just barely won the last 4 years ago, but I won it. Had an asshole run against me, but I beat him. And then Bobby, my chief of staff, Macaulay, stand up, please. He was my chief of staff the last 4 years. So when he first started, I thought he had a lot of potential. So I said, why don't you think about running for supervisor? And he he said, well, I don't know. I don't want to try to go against you. And I said, hell, I'm 80. I'm going to retire. So we did, and we had another a-hole running against us. So we moved in from LA and never even registered to vote in Madera County till March, but we still beat him by 204 votes. It wasn't much, but we won. And Dave Rogers, our new chairman next year, has already appointed him to the air board. So he'll be up here carrying my things on. And one other thing when I first got on here, it seemed like the Eastern Madera and Fresno counties weren't involved much because we were exempt because of our elevation and no natural gas. So one of the first things they did was the stove replacement, fireplace replacement. And it took me about 30 minutes that day to get enough votes to include Eastern Madera County and Fresno County to be involved with that. And that first year we ended up Madera County, and I'm not sure where Fresno ended up, but we were the second or third most usage of those dollars. Because I told them all, I said, I guess you guys don't realize when we make smoke up there, when the inversion happens, you guys get our smoke. So why don't we want to clean that up? And I don't think it was a full unanimous vote even, if I remember. Because the first one we were doing, I figured we had about a 50-50 chance. So we sat here and argued for a long time on it, but we got it done. So that was one of my big accomplishments, I thought, to have those places all involved with getting that done. So, and it seems like every board that members we've had on here has been really good, and they care. They wouldn't be here, I don't think, if they didn't care. And Samir said 50 years. I was born in Fresno, the Fresno County Hospital, and when I was 5, I had polio for over a year. I was in the Fresno County Hospital and paralyzed my whole left side, and I beat that shit, and I'm beating colon cancer right now. So I got 2 more treatments of chemo. I got one yesterday. I'm all plugged in today with a pump in me, and but I'm here. If it was Saturday, I couldn't be here because I'd have the shits of puking on you. So I'm here now, and I got a good day, and I'm just happy to be here. So, and I'm happy to have all you great people. When I got elected as a supervisor, the first thing I had a hell of a good boss. I worked on a cattle ranch up there for 41 years, And, he, I worked there about 10, 15 years before he made me the boss, and I told him, I'm really involved with the community. I was on the school boards and stuff, and he says, "Hey, Tom, you're only as good as the people you hire. You don't have to be there every 24/7. If you hire good people, you can do that." So when I got elected supervisor, the first speech I made was, "I'm only as good as you people out there, our department heads, all the employees, just like you guys here. If you don't make us look good, I ain't getting reelected. So you better make me look good." And and I even got a compliment, I think, first of this year, last year, I guess, when we first started going back down after the COVID, one of the employees that hadn't been there very long said, "You got a bad reputation." I said, "Yeah, probably have a few of them." And I said, "What's this one?" She says, "You fired more people in Madera County as a supervisor than any supervisor ever." And I said, "Just remember that." Thank you.
Supervisor-elect, I know you're sitting out there listening. You don't have the gravitas he has, so no cussing when you get up here. Craig.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been a great opportunity. I go back to my first opportunity to address the board here, and I said, I'm skeptical. I come from the land of regulated, and I'm here to help. So there's been a lot of growth over the years, and I think you look at everyone has perceptions, right? And we all, as board members, get those perceptions in our communities, and for me, it's always easy now, knowing the story, to address that, and I just tell people, I said, this is a local board. It's local representation. Would you rather have EPA, federal EPA or state EPA running this agency? It'd be a very different looking organization. And, I think from that aspect, when you look at the financial responsibility, I know we're going to receive that accounting award again. You look at the cost of delivering programs that this organization delivers. It's unprecedented as an agency, and just so appreciative of all your staff's efforts, and to my board members, we carry that perception out into the community, and I think this last year, there's folks, legislators and groups that tried to drive a perception, and even in a liberal state that we live in, they got shot down, right?
Yep.
And there's one reason it got shot down. It's that information right over there. So, really proud of the time I spent here. 8 years went in the blink of an eye, like life does, and we all have to make those decisions on when we're going to, make changes in life. And I turned 62 last week, so I'm not 80, but I still want to go out and climb hills and chase wild animals and fish and hunt. And my body's telling me at 62 that you better start doing some of those things. And while you have your health and all those things, I think the transitions that have occurred. I looked at my time on the county board, and I think we've replaced every department head some twice. We've had 3 CAOs. Prior to that, we had a CAO that was in the seat for, I think, almost 27 years, one of the longest serving CAOs. And so, transition happens, and it's the things that I think you're most proud of. And, the transition that happened here, I came in, we had Syed, right? And he had a style, right? And, you hang around long enough, and sometimes your styles go out of vogue. And not that Syed's went out of vogue, but it was different. And to be in Washington, D.C., and to watch, Syed just push his chair back and say, you know, I have confidence in somebody, and he's sitting right there, you know, and then to watch that guy, you know, lead a meeting, in front of, you know, the greatest minds on air quality and kill it. It was like, holy shit.
Yeah, no kidding.
I can't go back now, right? You know, we've made a progression, and so I don't know. Excited about the time I've served here. It's been a pleasure. You know, I came, like I said, from agriculture. I had a peer group there. Pulled the plug on that and transitioned. Now created a new peer group, and I don't know. Maybe I don't like my friends, or my friends don't like me, and now I'm gonna change my peer group again. It's gonna be a bunch of wild animals out in the Montana hills and rivers and streams, but I just say thank you. Thank you to my colleagues for your thoughtful processes, and you know, I look forward to seeing what comes from this board. You know, I think I'll digress for a moment. You know, we had the kids in here this morning. I've shared my views on the way we interact with the public, and I think we need to get more aggressive. And I've shared those views with some of you, and Samir, it's imperative that, you know, it sounds bad to the public, but we have a story to tell, and you can't let someone else tell that story. You've seen it in legislation this past year. People tried to tell our story. Fortunately, you know, again, facts speak louder than accusations. And so the best of luck to all of you, and thank you for the opportunity.
I want you to know you're not losing any friends here.
Yeah, not at all.
You come back and visit.
My peers.
I'm gonna do board comments before we take pictures, if that is okay. And if I can, I'll just go straight down the line, if that's okay. Member Preciado? It's your.
Yeah, I just would like to wish the best in life for the future for all three that are leaving, Mayor Pro Tem, and also for Supervisor Wheeler and Supervisor from Kings County. Great. I mean, Peterson, I know it's been very, you know, sometimes, you know, when you want to tell a story and some people bring rumors or false statements, it's difficult to move forward with, you know, with the best intention, but I believe they have done it. The board have done it, staff have done it, and I think we're looking forward to continue the progressive work of reducing pollutions in the Central Valley, and I believe we all should be proud of it, and I want to wish you the best farewell in the near future. Thank you.
Member Lewis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, this is my first meeting here. And of course, I've had interaction with Supervisor Wheeler and Supervisor Peterson, especially at our retreat. It was a wonderful opportunity to get to know both of you. I wish you both well in your retirement and enjoyment, and just relax and enjoy life, because it can be short sometimes. And your dedication to serve this community of the Air Board, to give your contribution with the knowledge that you have, makes a big difference. And one of the things that I perceive is that we may have different ways of thinking, but we're in a boat and we're steering it in the right direction to hold things down. Because as Supervisor Peterson said, it would be really different if we only had the federal government or the state overseeing this board and making things happen. So to have people electeds from our community who are willing to serve to help keep the boat level so that we can move forward and make things happen within this valley is a tremendous thing. So I appreciate the time that you've dedicated, and I appreciate your service to the district, and I wish the both of you well in your retirement.
Thank you.
Member Sheriffs, or Dr. Sheriffs, I'm sorry.
Thank you. And I share in thanks to both of you for the dedication you've shown to this board and the work that we've been involved in here. Supervisor Pedersen, I hope you have a lot of soft landings, only soft landings in the future. Yeah, great takeaway. I've learned a number of things from both of you, but I think I can remember, tell your story, don't be shy. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Mendez?
Yeah, that was, you know, I didn't know, you know, Tom, when I came here, and I've served with you for 8 years. I mean, it was a great pleasure. I mean, I learned a lot from you. Learned a lot about this organization from you because you were here before me. But I can say that I have a great friend in you. Absolutely. And I really appreciated you, and I'm glad to see, you know, Bobby come in and take your place. Me too. Yeah. But it was a great run. It was. Yeah. Great. Yeah. 8 years. Yeah. Yeah. Now, Supervisor Peterson, I knew him before. But I can tell you a little story. When his dad passed away, I don't know what year was that?
It's 2000, early 2001.
Yeah, I actually took his place and got named. He was on we were both members of the Island Cotton Gin. And when he died, I took his dad's place on the board. And that's still the only outside board I still sit on today. So, you know, to me, he's family. And I'm sure we'll talk. Yeah. Thank you. And I wish I was able to really interact with Fugazi more. And we were able to interact with her at the retreat. And she was a great board member. So we're losing 3 great board members, and hopefully we'll get 3 great ones in return. So.
Thank you. Member Pereira?
Sure. I was fortunate to be able to attend meetings with Director Fugazi in the Modesto office, and the sense that you got was correct. She was passionate about what she did, and she was really a good board member and a real advocate for clean air. And you know, growing up, I never realized that Stockton really had terrible air quality. You know, and she helped raise that awareness to me. And anyway, so I was thankful to serve with her. Supervisor Wheeler, you know, it's been a pleasure. You know, I've been a supervisor and here for 6 years, and you know, I would have. So you're only here 2 years ahead of me, and with your wisdom and your passion, I would have thought you'd been here a lot longer. So you did a great job at bringing that perspective, right? Forest management and you know the impacts that your area has on the rest of us, and so happy to have served with you. Supervisor Peterson, you know, a lot of similarities in my background coming from a farm and being passionate about that, and you've been a great example for me, you know, and it was, you know, as a chair, you provided the kind of leadership that we all should model. You did a great job, and you know, when you come from being regulated, you know, it's a little difficult to make the transition. It was for me. Anyways, and I feel like your leadership helped me make that transition easier and better, and I'm thankful for you. So thank you.
Member Shuckman?
62. Wow. Really, you're old, man. I'm behind. Craig and I graduated high school together, Hanford High. So, but he is a little older than I am. So I've known him for quite some time. And Tom, both of you have really shown dedication. When I first came on, Craig, you were the chair, and you really, to me, both of you strike that balance between defending, you know, forest management and agriculture, but also understanding the needs for our air quality. So I appreciate that, and I wish you both the best.
Thank you. Member Bessinger?
Thank you. I've always appreciated your knowledge and your enthusiasm. I'm a city guy from Jersey. I don't know anything about, other than visiting the mountains, what it's like to be a resident of the mountains. I don't come from a farming background. I always depended on both of you to be the canary in the mine on it, that you would tell us when things were getting, if we were being over regulatory. And it's important to have public servants who have experience outside of politics, and you both did. And I enjoyed serving with you, and I wish you both the best.
You too, buddy.
Thank you. Dr. Pacheco-Warner?
Thank you to both for your passion. And I think that, for me, sitting on the quote unquote other end of the political aisle, I think I love the idea of sitting on the board with you, because we all share our love for the people of the San Joaquin Valley and our love for this place as well. And I think that, I hope that whoever is next in your chairs, shares that love, because I think we can accomplish a lot, as we have in the time that I've been on this board, to see all that we've accomplished and to share that passion for our people, for the truth, for honest brokering. And, I look forward to that future, and also wish you both the very, very best. Thank you.
That's perfect. And there we go. Turn that phone off.
You're welcome.
So Craig and I go way, way back, Farm Bureau days. I'm in agriculture, he's in agriculture, so we have a long history, shared some amazing experience together. Tom, I met right when I got on the board of supervisors at CSAC 2009. The man could cut a rug and have fun and be serious at the same time. It is truly a gift of a person being able to, balance their life. And Christina Fugazi, she's been great. I sit on another board, rail board with her. This proves to me again that term limits suck. You have people that have dedication, have knowledge, they build up a knowledge base, and then they're forced out or forced to run for another office. So what I talk about on the Board of Supervisors, there's 294, I think, in the state, or 295, and you probably know half of them at any given time. So it's a fairly small group of people. So getting close through other interactions, everything that we share the same in the San Joaquin Valley, not just air quality, but we have lots of things. And I consider the two of you mentors. You both have a different perspective. You're more outspoken than I am, just generally. And it's not the viewpoint, but it's a compilation. Boards are a compilation of boards, and you want people who can disagree and disagree respectfully. You've taught me a lot in how you do that. And again, I have nothing but good things to say about you. You've mentored me on this air board. I know we've had discussions outside. This is very difficult to understand, and I've said it before. The issues are so deep, and they've been running so long, and to gather that knowledge, you literally have to sit on this board for an extended period of time to be effective. And both of you have proven that to me, and you've shown me a path. So I just wanted to let you know I appreciate it again from the bottom of my heart. You both mean a lot to me, and Christina also. So I'm going to ask, So we run down and take pictures now? Okay. Yes.
I'd like to get us
I thought about dressing up today, and I said, you know what?
Heck no.
I'm a farmer.
Stay in character, stay in character.
If you guys don't mind, after we take ours, would you guys all come down? I'd like to get a picture of all of you on here. Sure. If you don't mind.
Oh, gonna wear those big floppy shoes.
All right, let's do right here. Now, Mayor, get in there.
Make sure we can see your face, or tell me.
I'm gonna have them come down after we, if you don't mind.
Tom, I'm not gonna ask about the wig, but how long have you had that jacket?
Since high school?
Yeah. When he was in the band.
Prom?
Hey, Tom, your mask, Tom, your mask is still in the picture. There you go.
Can you guys come down, please? I want to get all again. Almost did that, dog.
On the back.
We will send those to Adriana or email, one or two.
Perfect.
So now we're going to move on. Point of privilege, I'm going to try and move item 10 up before item 9. That's moving the election of officers for 2023 up before the end of the year address by the chairman, just in case I can hand the paper over to someone else. So if that's okay, we're going to go to item 10, election of officers for 2023. Samir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a really quick context and background on this one. There is a process every year by which the board elects its chair and vice chair officer roles. Part of that process involves having an ad hoc subcommittee of the board, which was appointed at a prior board meeting, meet, talk about the upcoming priorities that are facing the Air District, and then hopefully develop nominations through that process that are then brought to the larger board for consideration, along with any other considerations at this meeting, so that we can have these roles filled going into the new year. The subcommittee did meet on November 28th, and I want to thank all the members that took the time to be on that subcommittee, which involved Supervisor Mendez, Supervisor Shekelian, Councilmember Bessinger, Supervisor Pereira, Dr. Sheriff, and Councilmember Lewis. So thank you all very much for your time on that. The subcommittee met, as I said, on November 28th and are recommending, as is included in the board packet, that the governing board elect Supervisor Vito Chiesa to serve as the chair of the board in 2023 and Councilmember Deborah Lewis as the vice chair for 2023. And with that, I'll turn it over to the chair and the board for action on this item.
I always feel bad sharing something when I'm at the beginning, so.
Can I make a motion?
You can make a motion.
I want to make a motion to cast the unanimous ballot for Supervisor Chesnia and Councilwoman Lewis as vice chair.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. If you call the roll.
Mr. Bessinger.
Aye.
Oh,
Nope.
sorry.
I was
got
afraid to
excited.
go to public comment. I'm afraid my wife is on and she's gonna try and convince everyone.
Another one?
I don't see your wife on here and no
You're safe.
public comment or online. Do we have any public comment in Modesto?
There is no public comment in Modesto.
Great, thank you. Any in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
All right, thank you. Now you may call the roll. Mr. Bessinger,
Aye.
Mr. Chiesa,
Aye.
Miss Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Mendez,
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Werner,
Yes.
Mr. Pereira,
Aye.
Mr. Peterson,
Aye.
Mr. Preciado,
Yes.
Dr. Sheriff,
Yes.
Miss Shekelian,
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye.
All right,
Great-
motion passed.
Great team.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you to the board for the confidence to allow me to serve as the chairman for the next year. And
One-year sentence.
it's a one-year sentence, but it's an honor and a privilege to represent this board as the chairman. So I appreciate it. So we'll move on to item 9, which I guess I will read now. So
I thought if we voted for you, we didn't have to hear it.
Congratulations.
hand it out in paper form.
Moving on.
It's fairly short. So, but again, it's a privilege to be here. As this year comes to a close, it has truly been an honor to serve the Valley in this role for the last several months and work with this exceptional board and staff. At the end of another year full of clean air work and progress, I'd like to take a moment to reflect on the ongoing efforts of this agency in working together with our Valley residents, businesses, and other stakeholders to improve air quality and the quality of life for our residents. Over the past year, the district has continued to move forward and make great strides in fulfilling its clean air public health mission, only possible through leadership of this board and the executive director and dedicated district workforce committed to our mission. Over the past year, this district continued to embark on the adoption of numerous new innovative clean air measures, including the administration of numerous grant programs for our residents, businesses, and public agencies, implementation of the new AB 617 community air quality programs in 4 Valley communities, and establishing strong partnerships with the agricultural community and the state to transition remaining open burning to cleaner alternatives. As a source of tremendous pride in the region's ability to get things done, this district continues to set the bar for all clean air agencies with respect to clean air grant programs, with the district administering hundreds of millions of dollars of new incentive funding over this past year to support the Valley's transition to new vehicles, equipment technologies, and practices. I'd like to express my gratitude to the residents, businesses, community organizations, public agencies, and other Valley stakeholders that have supported this work. And I would also like to take a second to recognize the hard work of district leadership and staff throughout the Valley counties that work day in and day out to help clean our air. Through these efforts, the Valley's air quality continues to improve, with the Valley now meeting the daily PM 2.5 standard, on the verge of meeting the 8-hour ozone standard by the 2023 target, and making progress towards meeting other standards. While air pollution is at its lowest levels ever and progress is significant, air quality issues are pervasive in this valley due to our unique geography that will require ongoing and concerted air efforts. In the coming year, continuing to move forward with new clean air initiatives will require extensive and meaningful engagement with the Valley residents, businesses, community advocates, and other stakeholders. This is especially critical in the face of our continued air quality challenges and the need to continue pushing the bar with respect to new technologies that will only be successful with strong support from the Valley public. There is much work to be done in the coming year, and I'm honored to have the support of the board in moving forward with our important mission in this coming year. I'm confident that with this board's strong and wise leadership, and with Samir at the helm, with this great district team, we will continue in our tradition of excellence in serving the Valley. I'd like to close by wishing everyone a happy holiday season, a Merry Christmas, and a happy and healthy New Year. Okay, on to item 11, receive the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting.
I'd like to introduce, as he is working his way up here, our Director of Administrative Services, Ryan Buchanan, who is at the helm of the financial team here, the Department of Finance, that does such a great job in continuing to pull together our budget and all of our financial documents, and have put us in a position where we are once again the recipients of this wonderful award. So with that, a brief presentation from Ryan.
Thank you, Samir, and Chair and Board. It is truly with great honor to receive this award and give you a little bit of background here. The GFOA is an internationally recognized organization that offers guidance and support to local and state government budget and finance professionals throughout the United States and Canada. So this year, once again, the GFOA has awarded the district with the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. It's the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting. And I believe for the last 9 consecutive years, our annual comprehensive financial report has received this certificate. So, and receiving this award represents a significant recognition by an expert independent authority of your board's commitment to meeting the highest principles of governmental reporting and transparency to the public and excellence in exercising fiduciary responsibilities. So the district ACFR is prepared annually and received the highest marks by independent auditors in the past 9 years. And to earn this latest award, the ACFR was judged by an impartial panel as meeting the highest standards of the GFOA program, including demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate the district's financial story and motivate the public to read the ACFR. And so again, congratulations to your board and thank you for your commitment to excellence and transparency to the public.
Yes, Mr. Chair, just wanted to point out really quick that there are some amazing members of our finance team actually in the audience that if you guys could raise your hand, those of you who work, thank you.
And you know, those are the members here within our central office. We also have some members in the regional offices that play a big role in making sure we show transparency and accountability within this. And I'd like to give them some recognition as well.
Thank you. Any board member comments? This speaks for itself.
Great job.
Yeah, this pretty much speaks for itself. We'll go out to the public.
No public comment in Fresno or online. Any public in Bakersfield or Modesto?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
And no public comment in Modesto.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And congratulations to all of the staff. And Ryan, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Ryan, thank you for bringing your staff with you.
Yep,
That's great.
that's right. Kudos. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 12, accept and appropriate a little over $6 million in Carl Moyer funding for zero emission commercial landscape equipment.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. What a great morning it is to be here with all of you. My name is Brian Dodds. I'm the Grant Programs Manager. And again, it's my pleasure to be here today to seek your board's approval to accept and appropriate $6.1 million in Carl Moyer funding for our commercial lawn and garden equipment program. So by way of a brief background, while commercial lawn and garden equipment represent only a small portion of the overall small engine population throughout the state, they contribute up to 70% of the emissions from the lawn and garden sector. And these emissions can occur in neighborhoods directly impacting residents throughout the valley. Estimates indicate that approximately 40% of residential lawn maintenance is handled by service providers. So those emissions are directly impacting neighborhoods. And there's also significant activity by commercial operators that maintain parks, schools, commercial and retail facilities. Your board has provided direction to seek additional cost-effective measures in order to reduce emissions and localize community impacts from this sector. In order to help reduce emissions from lawn and garden activity, the district has piloted various programs aimed at developing and deploying new zero-emission lawn and garden equipment. And just as a visual slide here, these are some of the types of commercial equipment that's now available, including ride-on mowers, walk-behind mowers, as well as a variety of hand tools, including blowers, chainsaws, pole saws, trimmers. The district's proposed 2022 ozone plan, which you'll hear this morning, includes a commitment to continue evaluating the next generation of technologies that will help in achieving additional emission reductions. In addition, there are statewide efforts to reduce emissions from residential and commercial lawn and garden activities that include incentive and regulatory measures. Last year, CARB approved amendments to their small off-road engine regulation, which require manufacturers to include zero-emission equipment in 2024. In addition, CARB has dedicated significant funding through the Carl Moyer program, which is specifically designated for the replacement of commercial lawn and garden equipment. As an early action in support of the district's 2022 ozone plan, The purpose of today's item is to accept and appropriate $6.1 million in new state funding for the replacement of this commercial lawn and garden equipment with new zero-emission battery-powered equipment. The district has operated a highly successful Clean Green Yard Machine program since 2013, which has offered Valley residents and businesses incentives to purchase battery-powered zero-emission lawn and garden equipment. The district's residential program offers rebates up to $250 for the purchase of lawnmowers, edgers, trimmers, chainsaws, and pole saws, with over 11,000 rebates issued to Valley residents to date. In addition, the district has led efforts to reduce emissions from commercial landscape equipment by encouraging the transition to electric equipment. In 2010, the district was successful in competing for $250,000 in state funding, which the district matched for zero-emission technology demonstration project that really helped provide real-world experience and feedback in one of the very early efforts in deploying commercial lawn and garden equipment. And in 2012, we hosted a conference to discuss potential opportunities to further develop and deploy zero-emission equipment and enhance landscaping processes. And in 2019, your board approved a new incentive program to replace commercial landscape equipment with zero-emission equipment. And to date, we've replaced over 550 pieces of equipment throughout the valley. So through the statewide Carl Moyer program, incentives are provided for voluntary programs aimed at accelerating the deployment of clean air technologies. Emission reductions are achieved through the replacement of old equipment with new lower emission technology. CARB is responsible for developing program guidelines, while participating air districts are responsible for program implementation and administration. State law through the Health and Safety Code allows CARB to reserve up to 10% of the state Carl Moyer program allocation for specific Moyer eligible projects. This is frequently referred to as the state reserve funding. And CARB has designated the current allotment of state reserve funding towards the replacement of lawn and garden equipment with zero emission technology. This also supports their 2021 small off-road regulation, which I mentioned earlier, requiring manufacturers to offer zero emission equipment starting in 2024. The overall statewide allocation is $24.7 million, of which the district received $6.1 million in statewide funding, which was the largest single allocation statewide. In order to spend this funding, CARB has gone through a process of updating the Carl Moyer program guidelines for lawn and garden equipment to increase the incentive amounts and provide additional options for commercial grade equipment. In addition, the proposed guidelines provide air districts with the flexibility to implement the program in coordination with participating manufacturers and dealers. We're currently analyzing program models through other programs to ensure that our program enhancements best serve the needs of Valley organizations and businesses. These guidelines are expected to be approved by CARB in January, following which we'd be able to implement these new guidelines and updated program. This slide represents the proposed incentive amounts under the Carl Moyer program updates, between $700 and $15,000, depending on the type of equipment. These incentives also include the flexibility and allowance for participants to purchase additional batteries for their equipment to help support a full day's use of the electric equipment. In addition to the Moyer program updates, CARB has also recently launched a new program for commercial lawn and garden equipment through the CORE program. This is a voucher program, but there are some key distinctions between the CORE program and Moyer program requirements. For example, CORE does not require the destruction of existing piece of equipment, while Moyer would. And CORE is only available to small businesses and micro businesses, while Moyer would be available more broadly across private and public entities. In addition, some of the CORE administrative requirements are less stringent than Moyer, which may impact participation by smaller businesses. And we are currently working closely with CARB staff to help synchronize some of these program requirements as much as possible in order to ensure an equitable, efficient, and effective expenditure of these program funds. So in terms of our next steps, Following CARB approval of the updated lawn and garden program updates, we will make the necessary updates to our district Clean Green Yard Machine commercial program in order to utilize the available state reserve funding. And we'll work closely with commercial landscape companies, public school districts, businesses, public agencies, as well as commercial lawn and garden equipment manufacturers and dealers to conduct outreach on these expanded funding opportunities. So with that, the recommendations are here on the slide before you. This completes my presentation. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions of staff? Member Wheeler?
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. I think that's really important. I just got one question. Like my son-in-law does this now up there. Do you have to have trade-ins to get these? Can you get, I mean, he's starting out. He does have 2 electric blowers. I seen that. I said, did you get a hold of Airborne? He said, no, I didn't know about it. But
Yeah.
if you don't
So
have,
under the proposed Moyer guidelines and under our existing program, you would need to have a gas-powered piece of equipment to replace in order to receive the incentive.
you got a
through
old
our
chainsaw, can
program.
you changing it into a blower?
It needs to be a like-for-like piece of equipment
Pretty
is the
close.
way that they've
One
defined
blows-
it.
One cuts and one blows.
So we could certainly work with them to explore some options on what may be available. And as I mentioned, one of the distinctions between our program and the other voucher program through the state is that that program doesn't require a replacement of a piece of
Just
similar
to call
equipment,
more,
while
I
ours
guess.
would.
Yeah, just to be clear, that program is up and running right now. So in his particular case, I'm sure qualifying as a small business just starting up, just based on what I heard, there actually could be some options available under that core program right now,
Okay.
because that is the entire focus of that program. Although ours would also be available to small business as well, and so we're going to try to integrate that as much as we can on the
Okay.
guideline side. But I'd encourage him to take a look at that right now.
I will. Thank you.
Member Bessinger?
Would this be available for private schools or church-based schools to apply for?
There are some unique challenges with that. I think Annette can answer that a little bit more detailed.
There could be. I mean, we evaluate applications from religious institutions on a case-by-case basis. And usually we're able to make some maybe adjustments to the contract to provide some additional language that might allow for that. But we do look at those on a case-by-case basis.
Because the reason I'm asking is we have a Catholic elementary school in my community. I'm sure other people have the same, private church school, and having, replacing their belching lawnmowers with something that's clean while the kids are out there playing. I mean, same kids, same community. I mean, just trying to open that up.
And we'll definitely take a look at that, council
Okay.
member, to explore, all the flexibilities that we can bring in between our program as well as the other state program to see if we can make sure it's open to that. There are some challenges that we've seen in the past
Right,
with it,
I
but we'll
understand.
definitely follow up on that.
And it seems to me we should probably, since we've done some work in our 617 communities, especially with electrified school buses, maybe we need to push this in those communities, in their small school districts and things like that would probably, I think that would go a long way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Pacheco Warner?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so excited about this this next piece of funding, and just seeing already how our program is a model statewide in terms of how to get the most out of our bucks. I have a couple of questions with this. In terms of the right now, is the goal to just get as many turned over, and then in the future we could possibly look at some more targeted, like with communities, and because I'm thinking about, for example, communities that are most affected, looking at Cal-Enviro, not just our 617, but just, throughout the district, how we could reach out to them specifically, and then also thinking about how to prioritize some of the smaller businesses as well. Yeah.
A great question, or set of questions, kind of related questions. Yeah, I can tell you that it's a very healthy funding amount for the relative cost of equipment. I think we're actually going to be able to do quite a few projects with this funding. So it's really exciting to be able to have that much funding that you can actually deploy across the valley. And the ride-on mowers are the most expensive, generally, kind of equipment, but that's not what everybody's always getting. So there's going to be $6 million actually goes a long way, as opposed to some of the big, like, electric school bus or other projects where $6 million might actually be 15 buses or 20 buses or less. There's actually going to buy quite a bit of equipment. So I think we can definitely, the goal is going to be to get out into the communities, rural communities, work with different levels of school districts, work within our 617 communities as well. There's actually already some focused funding as well that I wanted to mention within 617 communities as well. The board's previously approved. So I think, but your earlier question had to do with, is the goal here to get out there and get as much of this done? I think there is a lot of value in actually going out there and showing people, like doing as many demonstrations as possible so people can see that the equipment is working. So for example, if you're a city or a county and you have a large fleet that you use for park maintenance, this would be a great opportunity to, in parallel to your equipment, at the very least, start purchasing a range of equipment that you can use, and then start transitioning that fleet over. I think the more cities and counties, for example, that do that, and show that it works, I think others will certainly pick up on that. And all these reductions do happen at the community level, right? So, or the majority of them do. So I think there's going to be a lot of value in just trying to get out to as many as possible. And of course, we're going to, part of the Moyer program requirements there is focus, by the way, on disadvantaged communities within the program. So it is something that we're looking at with Cal EnviroScreen, how to actually put priority in those communities as well.
Well, that'll be great. And then hopefully, what I'd love to see, while I love to see us on TV, it'd be great to see some of these folks that do these big adoptions, in our communications, so that more people can see how these are working for them.
One other thing, just real quick, Mr. Chair, on the small business side, there is some exciting opportunity within this program, some new thinking that one thing that Brian didn't mention was that we've actually been involved in the guidelines development process as well, not just waiting for them to come out, but actually providing feedback to CARB and trying to assist in developing those. There are some exciting opportunities, I think, from an eligibility perspective and outreaching perspective when it comes to some of the smaller landscaping companies, in terms of how you can demonstrate that you're an established business, getting past some of the barriers that we had seen in some of the earlier models of the program. We're actually really interested in pursuing and trying to make a bigger difference in that space as well. And I think there's going to be some big opportunities with the new program model that will assist with that.
Thank you. Dr. Sheriffs.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this is a fantastic program. It's another example of this board fostering the expanding options out there, and it's really highlighting the importance of what we do to support the commercialization of these newer technologies that are going to help us decrease emissions overall, greenhouse gases, and cleaning the air. Also, from a health perspective, we're always thinking regionally because we have regional goals we have to meet. But this is a little bit like school buses because it is the local health effects. It's the diesel fumes that the kids riding in the buses are getting. Well, it's the fumes that the people who are operating this equipment are exposed to. So it has not just that work exposure, the neighborhood exposure. So it's an important focus that that we're involved in with this. I guess 3 questions. One, we're not those high polluting items can stick around and continue to be polluting, and I think that's something we need to worry about. And I guess there are a lot of different approaches. One, do we need some kind of a potential regulatory backup so that eventually those will not be used in the valley? How do we measure the air quality and health impacts of this? And a very local question. Is our landscaper using only zero? And this would be a great opportunity to convert at least one commercial operation, and then they'd be using that stuff everywhere, and we've got a way to help. It seems like it'd be very reasonable for us to ask, part of our contract for the landscaping we do here, that it be done with only zero emission equipment.
Their chair's quick responses to those questions. I'll start with the last one. The short answer is yes, we are zero emissions.
Yes, Merry
So
Christmas.
I'll just stop there, but it's part of the board's sustainability policies that we've discussed, and we actually have some green policies that we've put together for the way that we operate, the way that we procure. There's other facets to it that we've been implementing and continue to implement. The great question and suggestion, I think, on the remaining equipment. I just want to be clear. Our program would require the scrappage, although I think you were talking more generally about over time. There still being a legacy fleet, which I think it is going to be an ongoing discussion. The state's rule, and Dr. Pacheco Werner, who's here and was on cardboard, when that was put into place, it does start phasing out. It's a point of sale rule, but it's very stringent actually. And so I think there's still part of why we want to be really aggressive and launch this with a lot of energy is because very soon it's going to become very, very difficult. Like as equipment transitions, it's going to become a zero emissions transition. So we can't prove this out very quickly, and that rule is just around the corner in terms of its compliance timeframes. It's already going to be a very big challenge actually over the next year or two to make that transition happen. And then I think there's a larger comment that you raised, which is one that we do need to understand continually: the inventory, the emissions, and what are we all doing to continue assisting in that. So I take that as a suggestion as well in terms of just keeping a close eye on that issue. And as far as how we measure, obviously with a program like this, it's related to my last comments, but we do, in everything that we do, we will track very carefully all of the old equipment, new equipment, the benefits of the program. And then I think that's going to feed, I think the bigger question, again, to reiterate, is what is the inventory of the equipment? What are the emissions? What are the impacts? And are we seeing the transition that we're hoping to see with this over time as quickly as we can get it? I think that's going to be the ongoing sort of priority for us working with CARB.
Well, and just observing, this is an intelligent approach. It's taken time to develop, which has been good. We're looking at a class, as pointed out in the discussion, 10% of small engines, but 70% of all the small engine emissions. So this is, again, very intelligent targeting of what we're doing and focusing the resources.
Thank you. Member Peterson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of personal insights. Each year at the county, we have a barbecue out in our public works shed and all the maintenance equipment. And, I walked in there this year and it was amazing to see the amount of battery powered equipment in there. I think technology is moving forward. It's not fully moved forward. There are some, I think, aspects that have been proven to work better than others. And technology is gonna only improve. From a personal standpoint, if you have a home in Montana, you gotta have a chainsaw, right? So I brought my chainsaw home. One of my duties at home is we have a rather large yard and it's about 3.5 acres and we got a bunch of trees and they all need trimming right now. And so started, and I brought my chainsaw from Montana back. It's gas powered but I borrowed my brother-in-law's lift, which is a battery powered lift. He mentioned that he has a battery powered chainsaw, and I was like, interesting, and so I'm in a battery powered lift using a battery powered chainsaw to trim my trees and then at the end of the day, I'm using a battery powered blower to blow all the leaves and the trash off, and so as a guy that's always been very astute at measuring the competence of equipment, as we do in the farming. It's really about cost and reliability. And I think there's still some holes in the reliability. I think one of the issues that I hope, and I know it's not within the jurisdiction of this board, is that the waste stream we're creating, and there's not a lot of good answers with the waste stream that this is creating. And so, we're talking about all the good we're doing with air quality, but when you look at the waste stream that's being created and how it's going to be dealt with, I don't know that the technology is there yet. We had a presentation from, we have a chem waste facility out in Kettleman City. Was talking to Mr. Henry about how you deal with old solar panels. And right now, there is no good answer for that. They're encasing them in cement at an astronomical cost. So I think we need to be mindful of this technology. I think it's a move forward, but I think we also need to be respectful of the waste stream that we're creating and making sure that we're doing the responsible thing as well, and in making sure that this technology is efficient, but it's also at the end of the day not causing more harm than good. And with that, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Member Lewis?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In short, I think the thing that I'd like to say is that I'm looking at it from a small community perspective, and I think the Valley has been covered pretty well, under SB 617 and some of the larger communities, but we still have small communities within the Air District that need help. And so it doesn't matter to me whether you're in a large district where you have 617, or if you're in a small district such as Merced County, where I represent all the cities. Commercial lawn care people are still walking behind a mower, and they still receive the same off gases as anyone in the larger communities. So we need to find a way of getting this information out to our smaller community areas so that people who live there, who are working with this equipment, are able to hear the information, hear the message, and be able to make a decision on whether they want to purchase that. I worked with Jamie last year to get the message out to our cities about different things that were available to the general community. I'm going to be calling her pretty quickly here because I want to hit the school districts about what they have available. But I would assume some of this is generated by being able to get in there very quickly, and most small cities don't have staff to get in there and get this competitive equipment quickly enough in order to have access to it. So I know there was one supplier of equipment in Los Banos who had approached me where they wanted to get the professional community out to understand what they had to offer in the new equipment. I think we need to start working with these companies, get the information flooded out on the internet, flooded out in newspapers, whatever way we could flood it, just as we did with the advertisement about what equipment to use. We can do that the same way on the television so that they can know there's a central place you can come to, perhaps in Los Banos, Merced, wherever it's going to be, for them to come and look at the demonstration of these pieces of equipment that are offered. And as Supervisor Peterson indicated, our hauler in our area is Mid Valley. I just went to their Christmas meeting last week, and there's all these new regulations coming down from the state about how they're going to dispose of batteries. How do we dispose of batteries? Right now, you can take them to Walmart or Home Depot or what have you. A lot of people throw them in the waste in their receptacles, but it is something. We're not there yet. It's like this is a step process, and when a new form of handling this is developed, then the battery operation will go away, and there's more purchases to be done. But with that being said, I really would like to see a way of getting the information out so that the smaller communities and their residents and their businesses can access what this organization has to offer, and they're not left out, because that's really important to me, to make sure that they're able to purchase this equipment and do their job as well. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Member Mendez.
Yeah, Supervisor Peterson actually asked probably the most important question: what are you going to do with with the waste? But I think what's the availability of this equipment? Is it fairly available?
Sure. As the technology has advanced, more and more manufacturers have equipment available. It is a lot more readily available. There are a number of retailers that are selling this equipment, that offer this equipment. We want to tap into that as much as we possibly can to help get the word out to the people who are looking, to let them know that these options would exist.
Yeah, thank you. Because I know sometimes we have programs and we end up having a year wait to get something made. And the other question I have is, does anybody know who Carl Moyer is or was? Yeah, he does over there.
Yeah, Tom probably does. But was he a CARB board member, or a researcher that was heavily involved in a lot of the early air quality science with CARB, and
Dr. Carl.
yeah,
Okay.
had this program named after him 25 years ago or so.
All right, because this program's been around for a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
Super successful. Member Preciado.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, my comment will be about equity. I have said in the past, that sometimes small rural communities have a disadvantage, especially when it comes to first come, first serve. By the time they fill out their application, so they're aware of it. Sometimes it's too late. The funding is no longer there. So, but this time I would like to say equity countywide. We're serving 8 counties, and sometimes, like for the electric school buses, how many counties did actually get an electric school bus? I know it is difficult, the funding is not there, but I think for disadvantaged communities, any little thing will help them reduce pollution. And also, we have children, we have people with asthma and many other, health issues. So it is important that when we're, I know it is difficult, I know it is the best intent of the Air District to reach out to everyone in the 8 counties, but I know it's difficult to actually reach. Sometimes we target hot zones or red zones, and it is good, but at times we forget about other parts of the counties where communication, there's a language barrier. Sometimes city staff is limited, and they have other priorities. And we're not saying this air quality is not a priority, but sometimes it gets overlooked, or you don't have enough staff to really. So I think we'll need to find a way how we can be more equitable. I'm not saying we're not, but I think we should be able to do more. To me, it is really big news that out of $24 million, the district got 6.1. I mean, that's really good compared to the whole state. I mean, and I think it will give us an opportunity to reach out to more communities that need it the most. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think speaking to Dr. Pacheco Warner's comments and Mayor Preciado's, using the EnviroScreen actually makes sense with the the areas that are most in need. But conversely, I'll say, because I'm not a greedy person, but if you were to follow EnviroScreen, $12 million should have ended up here in the San Joaquin Valley. And so if we utilize that tool to hand out money, then we go back to the state and prove to them that the need is greater here. I think there's no doubt about that. And it's nice to get the largest award, but as far as an air quality component, we deserve the majority of the money. And that's just a statement. That's the truth. So anyways, with that, no more soapbox. I'm going to go out to the public.
We have a public comment online, Mr. Gilbert Rosas.
Welcome, Gilbert.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to thank the board and everybody for allowing Modesto City Schools to be a project partner on a lot of different things. And I applaud you guys for the district doing the homework to find out, what recommendations they're giving you. And I hope this board votes to approve that funding. Modesto City Schools is like a small city. We employ 33 grounds people, and we have 34 schools and 50 sets of trimmers, mowers, hedgers, and edgers. We also have 10 riding lawnmowers that have a 15-foot spread, as well as 10 that do 6-foot spread. So we have participated. Like I said, we are an ongoing partner with you guys. We appreciate the work we've done on infrastructure together with the buses. And I agree with everybody that's spoken on the board. This is, again, the right time, the right idea, and right now with the funding, that would be great. We had limits as to what we could do and participate in, even though there were funds available by your current guidelines. So by changing these guidelines and adjusting them, we hope to get in it and take advantage of doing as many riding mowers and pieces of equipment as we can. Modesto has made the headlines for sustainability issues, and we believe that San Joaquin Valley is our project partner. We've taken that message and listed you guys and invited you guys to speak, like the ZebCon conference at the School Transportation News Network, as well as California School Board Association. So, we want to do all the things you're doing. Under Cal EnviroScreen, we are seen as an 82% below the poverty level. And so we are trying to take emissions off. We don't want to deliver gas out or diesel or anything else to the school sites. We want it to be better for our kids around there in the community. And we have offered to help other school districts do the same. We're not just looking at it for ourselves. We're very encouraged, and we would love to partner with you guys to do videos and showing other districts. So again, we want to take this opportunity to support this, to thank you for considering it and doing the right kind of work. We'd like to stop delivering gas out to school sites entirely and convert over to electric. And as a project partner with us, we appreciate your efforts that you're doing, and we look forward to doing more together. We're very excited, and we'd like to help other school districts by being an example that you guys can use in the partnership. So I just want to say that I really appreciate all the work that you're doing. We thank you for that, and we're looking forward to working with you in the future. It's going to be awesome. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Gilbert. Appreciate it. He's been a real leader in keeping Modesto right in the forefront.
Thank you. No further comment online. We do have one public comment in Fresno.
I would like to first thank Samir and the team and Mr. Moyer, Carl Moyer. I understand from Mr. Tom Jordan, the historian, that it started first with the San Joaquin Valley and Sacramento to have the first pilot with Carl Moyer. So you guys have done a great job. Probably for Jamie or for any one of them, the Latino community is the largest landscape grounds maintenance group of folks in this valley and probably in this state. Okay. Over by my office, I represent 4 nurseries in this state, and one of them is the largest nursery, who in turn has, I don't know, maybe 400 or 500 maintenance people come to their nursery to pick up plant material every day. So there are opportunities, and I think with this company, we have a workers' comp company right next to us. They represent 2,700 grounds maintenance people and landscape people. So there's another avenue there for that. And I think I look at it, it's like the tractor program, a little bit different maybe, but you turn in a dirty gasoline vehicle and you get an electric vehicle. Now you've achieved what that emissions was purposed for. To keep it and to get a battery, you're kind of going in a different direction. And the core program has a different philosophy. billboards. I think we need to have some billboards that have one or two of you supervisors, council people on the billboard that shows next to a grounds maintenance person at a school or even at a, I'm after Catholic schools and private schools to have the same opportunity. Very difficult, I know, but I think they deserve the machine. A kid is a kid. A teacher is a teacher. Okay, it doesn't matter whatever they're, either church or non-church. I believe that in this program, we're willing in agriculture to reach out to our folks and do this. Lupita over at Univision is probably the most watched Univision program is her network that she does. It'd be great to have her join up with Jamie and a few of those folks to do some of this advertisement and to say that the money's there, the opportunities are there. And I think we would be absolutely happy to help any way we can in agriculture. But my 4 nurseries are massive. I mean, Monrovia is not a small nursery, nor is McCall, and no is a few of Treeland Bolting Farms. 3 big nurseries in California, huge. They would be happy to also get that material out there, get the information out there, do some press at the local nursery and get them going. I know I'm over time, so I apologize. But whatever we can do, board, we'd be happy. Samir and your team, whatever we can do. I think it's a great time that you finally got some funds to help those people. And then how we teach them how to get rid of the battery.
Thank you, Manuel.
No further public comment online or in Fresno. Any public comment in Modesto?
There are no longer any members of the public in Modesto.
Okay, thank you. Any in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you.
Bring it back to the board for action.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion
Second?
and a second. Call the roll, please.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Mr. Mendez?
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco-Warren?
Yes.
Mr. Ferreira?
Aye.
Mr. Peterson?
Aye.
Mr. Preciado?
Yes.
Dr. Sheriff?
Yes.
Ms. Shecklian?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. On to item 13, adopt the 2022 plan for the 2015 8-hour ozone standard.
I'd like to introduce Jesse Fierro, our Director of Planning, who has been spearheading with quite a few people. She might mention how many staff have actually worked on this plan. I know it's a large number. Has been working in helping to lead the development of this plan over a period of time. This is the latest of many plans that your board has put into place with, as you just saw with the prior item, quite a bit of ongoing, exciting, innovative work going on to further reduce air pollution and bring about the benefits that we're looking for. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jesse to present the item.
Welcome, Jesse.
Thank you, Samir, members of the board. Good morning, everyone. As Samir mentioned, I'm Jesse Fierro, the Director of Air Quality Planning, and I'm here to walk you through the 2022 ozone plan. You've been hearing about this plan for several months, and today is hopefully the day that we get the plan approved and send it on to CARB. So as you know, the Valley has significant air quality challenges, really unmatched in the nation, because we have some pretty unique circumstances here with our geography and our meteorology. And then you add to that the fact that we are a very fast-growing region in terms of population growth and vehicle miles traveled. We have challenges with wildfires and a number of challenges that just make our air quality challenge more difficult and more nuanced than what a lot of other areas are facing. We also have 7 out of the 10 most disadvantaged areas in California are located in the San Joaquin Valley. Part of what makes ozone so challenging in the Valley, as I mentioned, is our meteorology and our geography. And when I say that, I'm referring mostly to summertime. You hear a lot about the 2 main pollutants that our region struggles with, ozone in the summertime and particulate matter in the wintertime. The reason why ozone is a challenge in the summertime is because it really takes sunlight and high temperatures to form ozone in the atmosphere. And that adds to the challenge of regulating ozone. It's not like you can just stop the source of ozone, because there's a lot of sources. Ozone forms in the atmosphere through chemical reactions with oxides of nitrogen, or NOx,
and volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. And so when you get both of those compounds in the presence of sunlight and heat, in an area like ours where it's all trapped and it lingers for a long time, you just sort of build, thank you, you build a scenario where you're likely to have really high ozone levels. And we do experience those high ozone levels in the summertime in particular. What's interesting about the chemistry in our region is that even though we need both NOx and VOCs to form ozone, we're actually what's called NOx limited. And what that means is we have so many VOCs in our region, largely because of biogenics or naturally forming VOCs, that reducing VOCs doesn't do nearly as much to reduce your ozone levels. Really, it's all about reducing the NOx emissions. If you can reduce NOx emissions, then the VOCs have nothing to react with, and you have a very effective approach for regulating ozone when you focus on those NOx emissions. So we throw around that word NOx limited all the time, like people should just know what that means, and that's what it means. The VOCs don't have anything to react with. The added bonus for us for regulating NOx is also a precursor for particulate matter in the wintertime. So when you regulate NOx, not only do you get big benefits for ozone in the summertime, but then you get the benefits you need for the wintertime particles as well. Public health is of the utmost importance for both of those pollutants, and I want to focus on the health impacts of ozone because we're here today because of an ozone plan. Ozone impacts public health, and that's why EPA sets air quality standards that the entire nation is required to meet. Ozone most significantly impacts people with pre-existing conditions, younger children, older adults, people working outside, and exposure to ozone can cause coughing, throat irritation, discomfort in the chest, shortness of breath, and the other issues that you see listed here. Ozone can impact lung function and aggravate existing regulatory conditions. It can lead to increased medication use and increased emergency visits and hospital admissions. So all of these health impacts are really what prompt EPA when they establish air quality standards. And that's how the Clean Air Act works. The Clean Air Act requires EPA to review the health impacts and then set national ambient air quality standards, or NAAQS. Those NAAQS are designed to protect public health. And then it's on states and regions like ours to design plans to achieve those standards. And that's the best way for us to address the public health impacts. And that's what brings us here today. EPA has actually adopted several ozone standards over the past 40 years, or over 40 years. Time flies when you're having fun. They established a 1-hour ozone standard in 1979, and then 3 8-hour ozone standards. The first one in 1997, and then another one in 2008, and then another one in 2015. So the plan here today is focused on that 2015 8-hour ozone standard and meeting the applicable Clean Air Act requirements for that standard. And those requirements are really important. There are administrative requirements that your plan needs to meet, and if you don't meet those requirements, your region could face sanctions. So that's very important. We want to make sure we are meeting our legal obligations. But of course, the overall motivating factor is we want to improve public health in the San Joaquin Valley for our region as a whole, our environmental justice areas, all of us that live and work here. We want to make sure we are improving the ozone for our communities. But even though this plan is focused on that one standard, I alluded earlier that these strategies actually benefit us for multiple standards. And that's good news. We can be very efficient. We can deal with several problems at the same time. And really, this plan is building on decades of implementing effective air pollution control technologies. There have been many standards set by EPA, and our agency has adopted many plans. Some of you have been around to see many of those plans adopted and implemented. This plan builds on those successes and then carries the success forward by reviewing the latest science and research, state-of-the-art modeling, and the best available information. This plan, I know you guys read it all because it was 1,097 pages. I'm joking about the reading it all. I'm sure you glanced at it, but we're going to talk about all those requirements today. But I just want to emphasize how much analysis goes into this plan. This plan was developed through over 2 years of work with our agency collaborating with staff at the California Air Resources Board, having numerous opportunities for public engagement through scoping meetings and workshops, many updates to your board, our CAC and our EJAC. So it's been a very, very long process. This plan really represents a lot of analysis and documenting our decision-making on the best path forward for our region. I'm a little jealous that Brian Buchanan got to bring in his whole finance department to celebrate their accomplishments. I couldn't bring in everyone at the district who worked on this plan because it was about 48 people who helped contribute to this plan. I do want to recognize Emily Nealon, Senior Air Quality Specialist, and Patrick Houlihan, the Supervising Air Quality Specialist in the Planning Department, who played very big, they're here with me today, and they played exceptionally big roles in developing this plan. But it really took a village, both at the district and CARB, to pull all this analysis together. This plan provides for expeditious attainment of this standard by 2037, our attainment deadline, with tremendous NOx emissions reductions. We're going to see a 72% reduction in NOx emissions. That number still to this day blows me away, especially when you recognize the significant NOx emissions reductions we've already achieved. And I'm going to show that here on the next slide. But to know that we've already done so much and we're going to keep reducing NOx emissions and we're going to get big benefits as a result. So this plan achieves attainment without relying on something called the black box. Back when we adopted the 2007 ozone plan for the 1997 standard, we had to rely on what was called black box emissions reductions. And the concept there for an extreme non-attainment area like ours is you need so many emissions reductions and you have so much time to get to attainment, you don't even know how you're going to get there. So it's a promise to come back and tell EPA and the public, all right, we have 3 years yet left for attainment. This is how we're going to get there. Those are called black box reductions. We don't need that for this plan. This plan identifies everything we need to get to attainment by 2037. And that's unusual for an extreme area. So that's very good news in this plan. And that said, this plan still includes commitments for continuing to evaluate and implement additional emissions reductions as the plan is implemented. So I want to show you the big emissions reductions I just talked about. This slide shows it. In the past 40 years, we've reduced NOx emissions from over 800 to under 200. That's a very large reduction in NOx. And this is the result of tough regulations adopted by your board and also adopted by CARB. These are the toughest regulations in the nation. These groundbreaking rules are serving as models for others. And of course, it's not regulations alone, but the compliance and the investments of the regulated community and our community in general. And following these regulations and continuing to make the investments to expedite these benefits for the public health of our region. And we have as you heard just a moment ago, we have an effective and efficient incentives program with $4.5 billion in public and private investment, reducing thousands of tons of emissions, and really strong public engagement and outreach. It takes all of these things together. No one facet of our strategy would get the job done, but by having a comprehensive strategy that couples regulation, incentives, and outreach, and everyone working together, that's how these emissions reductions happen. And as a result, ozone is improving. Part of what makes SIP, a state implementation plan, and the next so difficult to communicate is it sounds like it's a yes or no answer. It's attainment or non-attainment. If it's non-attainment, you fail. If it's attainment, you win, and nothing else matters. And while attainment's very important, it is such a limited way to understand the progress that we're seeing in our air quality. And that's not to say we're done, but just to recognize that we've seen a 90% reduction in days over the 1997 ozone standard, a 90% reduction. We've seen a 70% reduction in days over the 2008 8-hour ozone standard, a 35% reduction in days over the 70 ppb standard. And we're on track to meet that 84 ppb standard. That's the first one, the 1997 standard, by our target of next year. So this is all very good news. This is to say that the programs we're implementing are working. We are seeing success in ozone and the San Joaquin Valley, and that's shown here. These graphics show 8-hour design values. Design values are your attainment tests. They're really meant to show your worst case scenario ozone levels. And even with that very challenging metric, you can see here that between 2000 and 2020, you want those purple areas to shrink. Purple is bad for ozone, and you can see they shrink a lot, and the red is shrinking a lot. And we're seeing a lot more of those green and yellow areas showing that ozone in the valley is improving. So that's really good news. For those design values, you can see here, and this chart was just updated to include 2022. We had a pretty good year for 2022 for ozone. And we are, again, on track for 97. And everything we're doing, not only does it get us closer to that 97 standard, but of course it also gets us closer to the 2008 and the 2015 8-hour ozone standards. Okay, so that's the context of all the standards. So let me focus a little bit more now on the 2015 plan before you today. There are lots of requirements as documented on those almost 1,100 pages of this ozone plan. And some of these requirements we've actually met a few years ago. You're required to have a RACT demonstration, an emission statement program certification, an emissions inventory baseline, new source review, vehicle miles traveled offsets demonstration. These are very administrative technical analyses. We met those all a couple years ago, so we're done with those. We're also required to have a full emissions inventory, modeling and air quality analysis, RACM, that means reasonably available control measures. So you're supposed to analyze all your control measures, and an attainment strategy development. That's what we're here to focus on today. And hopefully, after your board takes action on this plan, we'll be able to send this plan on to CARB. CARB would have their hearing on this plan in January and then submit the plan to EPA. And hopefully EPA would act on it in a timely fashion. And in the meantime, we would start implementing the plan to start working toward that 2037 attainment deadline. So let's focus a bit on the attainment strategy, like the nuts and bolts of the plan. This is how we are going to reduce emissions in the valley to meet the 8-hour ozone standard. The district's current rules and regulations already reflect technologies and methods beyond the control levels established in the Clean Air Act. The aggressive control strategy in this plan will reduce NOx emissions even further, another 72% between 2018, which is the base of the plan, to 2037. And we're achieving this 72% NOx emissions reduction through regulatory programs, additional incentive and outreach measures, ongoing evaluation of innovative control technologies, because we know more things are going to become available over the next decade. So we're going to keep an eye on all of those things. Billions of dollars required to be invested in deploying these latest control technologies across stationary sources, fleets, public agencies, and other valley sectors. The bottom line is the district and the state's incentive programs, while you can't always credit them the same way in the SIP, they're crucial to accelerating attainment in our region and to accelerating public health benefits, because that's how we're able to deploy these often costly control technologies faster and reduce emissions faster in the coming years. And while CARB and the district have a lot of really strong and effective regulations, really the key at this point, if you want to expedite attainment, if you want to expedite public health benefits, we really need the federal government to do its fair share to reduce emissions in the San Joaquin Valley as well. I just talked to you all about that back at the study session. And of course, it's still true all of 5 weeks later, and it's going to be true for a long time. We really need federal mobile source emissions reductions to expedite attainment and expedite public health benefits in our region. So it's crucial that we keep advocating for that. The plan results in significant health benefits, billions in avoided health impacts in California by meeting this standard. And so that's really important. District rules achieving plan emissions reductions. Your board has taken action to reduce emissions through a variety of programs just recently over the past several years. And the fact is we're not done implementing these regulations yet. So even though they're technically adopted and they're on their books, there's still a lot of work to be done to fully implement these regulations and to realize all the emissions reductions that's going to come out of this work. And you see, there's a very long list here. All of these rules are going to contribute to improving public health in the San Joaquin Valley over the coming years. But there are opportunities, a few opportunities for additional control measure commitments. And through the extensive review, I mentioned that the plan's about 1,100 pages long. Over 300 pages are just analyzing control measure opportunities. And we compared our regulations to regulations across the state, across the nation, to any technologies that are available anywhere to evaluate the cost effectiveness and whether or not it's technologically feasible and whether it would actually contribute to attainment in our region. That's a very challenging analysis. Regulations are not one size fits all. So it takes a lot of showing your work and analysis to demonstrate that you have the best regulations you can. We did identify just a few opportunities to enhance a few of our rules. One of those areas is enhanced leak detection and repair requirements. There are potential emissions reductions, they call that LDAR for short. There are potential emissions reductions opportunities through a handful, about 5 of our LDAR regulations, consistent with recent developments at the federal level. And this is a developing area where both at the federal and the state level, they are also looking at this right now. So this is a very active area. We're working on that issue in parallel. So the district's working closely with CARB and EPA to evaluate potential enhancements to those regulations. Another area is crude oil production sumps. This really was born out of the BARC analysis that happened recently. There is the potential for an emissions reductions opportunity here. And so we are evaluating exemption thresholds for sumps and ponds that are used to store produced water and crude oil production. So because we were already looking at these areas, we're including commitments in the plan as SIP strengthening measures to hopefully accelerate the public health benefits in the region. And these new regulatory amendments will go through an extensive stakeholder engagement process and socioeconomic analysis, as we do for all of our regulations. So this plan is just a snapshot in time. We're building on the things that came before, and the work keeps going after a plan is adopted. And one of the ways the work keeps going is through the regulatory process. So here's a list of those rules that I just mentioned. Most of these are the LDAR rules, and then 4402, they're near the top. That is our sump rule. So we are committing in the SIP to bring action before your board in either 2023 or 2024. Beyond this, we know that technologies and opportunities will keep arising as technologies improve, as funding comes available. So we're committing in this plan to ongoing evaluation of innovative measures, working collaboratively with CARB and other agencies as appropriate to deploy low emissions or no emissions technologies wherever we can for areas like residential and commercial heating, stationary combustion measures, stationary source VOC measures. Recognize we already have the most stringent requirements in place in our regulations, but we will keep looking. If there's ever an opportunity to go further, we will bring those opportunities before your board for consideration. Energy and climate change programs. This is a growing area. It's happening right now. If there's ever an opportunity to leverage those programs to benefit Valley Ozone and to benefit our incentive programs, we want to be there. We want to take advantage of those opportunities. Clean landscaping equipment practices, you just heard about and approved this morning. So that's another area where we will remain active to keep bringing good technologies to the Valley and to keep reducing emissions there. And then a variety of other innovative measures as we look to enhance public outreach, wildfire prevention and response, and enhance coordination with public health officers. All of this is included in the 2022 ozone plan before you this morning. It is still morning. This morning, I want to touch briefly on CARB's 2022 state SIP strategy. CARB adopted this strategy in September of 2022 to provide the emissions reductions needed to reach attainment from sources under state authority for San Joaquin Valley and the state overall. Really, San Joaquin Valley and South Coast are the biggest drivers here because of our big ozone challenges, but other areas in the state also benefit from this state strategy. And in this state SIP strategy, which again has already been approved in September of this year, it includes a number of commitments to reduce emissions from mobile sources, consumer products, a DPR Department of Pesticide Regulation, that's DPR, pesticide regulation, and primarily federally and internationally regulated sources as well. So CARB is an important partner in the journey to improving air quality in the San Joaquin Valley. Here's a list of the state measures. You can see they have on-road measures as well as off-road engine standards. That board will take action on these measures, starting next year, well, actually starting this year, all the way through 2029. And some of these things just take time, right? And we see that on our level as well. These regulations don't happen all overnight. It really takes analysis and technology development to make these emissions reductions happen. But even these commitments that are later this decade, these are important commitments for assuring that our region and other regions gets to attainment on time. Also on this list is a consumer product standard. There's one measure on this list that is not a CARB measure, but it is a DPR pesticide measure, so that's included on this list as well. Also for CARB, we have an in-use locomotive regulation and future measures for aviation emissions reduction. So it really shows just the variety of sectors where we'll see emissions reductions on our journey to attainment. There's also a number of measures that CARB is still developing that come from the last state SIP strategy, the one that they adopted in 2016. There's a forklift regulation that's coming up soon, and a couple other ones listed here. So even though CARB committed to these measures a few years ago, the action is still pending and the implementation is still pending. So these are new emissions reductions that will help achieve new public health benefits in our region. So our attainment demonstration, when you take all of this together, from whether it's existing controls, recently adopted controls, new control measure commitments, when you take this all together, significant emissions reductions are going to be achieved through this planned strategy over just 15 years. 15 years is actually not a long time when it comes to deploying some of these really innovative boundary-pushing technologies. And this will bring the Valley into attainment of the 2015 8-hour ozone standard as expeditiously as possible, no later than that 2037 attainment deadline. Over 150 tons of NOx emissions reductions for our region over the next 15 years. So that's really remarkable. And as a result of this, we will we'll reach attainment and we'll get public health benefits. Another way to just recognize how just monumental these emissions reductions are. When you realize that the San Joaquin Valley, as I mentioned earlier, we're one of the fastest growing regions in the state in terms of population, vehicle miles traveled increase. And so in general, without regulations, without incentive programs, without cooperative partnerships, in general, more people means more pollution. More people means driving more. And in the Valley, we have more people and we have people driving more. And yet emissions are still decreasing as much as they are. Again, it's a testament to the effectiveness of the regulatory program and all the investments in work that is going in to getting these public health benefits for our region. And I mentioned earlier that sometimes it's troubling that people see an attainment plan as a yes or no, that's all. Are you in attainment? Yes, that's great. No, well, then you failed. And that's really not how this works. We are getting successes along the way. There is a journey to attainment. There is public health improvement along the way. Just on the attainment metric, you can see in this chart that the axis on the left here is the percent of the Valley population in attainment. More and more of the Valley gets to attainment every year. So it's the whole Valley is not waiting until 2037 to reach attainment. The Valley is getting to attainment gradually. And even the areas that aren't in attainment are still seeing ozone improvements along the way as air quality continuously gets better. And this is just for the 2015 standard. If we were to look at the 2008 standard, we are already seeing more of our region attaining that standard every year. And we're seeing better health benefits every year as we gradually reduce ozone pollution and get to attainment of that standard by the 2032 deadline. And then just thinking about the 1997 ozone, and I get a little nostalgic when I talk about the 97 standard because I remember working on that plan back in 2007, and that seemed like such a monumental task. And yet here we are in 2020, where over 60% of the Valley is in attainment. And in fact, based on recent air quality data, we're right on the cusp. I think, 2020, when you analyze the impact of wildfires and when you follow EPA's calculation methodologies, we're there. And that, again, it's all the regulatory work, all the hard work of this board and the Valley communities in reducing air pollution in our region. Thinking about how these improvements will be realized over the coming 15 years or so, well, a little bit more than 15 years. The chart on the left is our 2018 baseline, our starting point for the plan, and then seeing all the improvements in ozone levels at our attainment year of 2037, we're going to see those improvements, and along the way, public health will be improving. If we want to accelerate it, as I mentioned earlier, it's really about getting our federal agency partners to do more for our region, giving the increase in stringent air quality standards for ozone and PM2.5. Additional NOx reductions from federal sources are vital. Most of the NOx in the valley comes from mobile sources. We're doing what we can for the programs under our jurisdiction, for the funding we can get. But we need federal funding, we need federal regulations to get more NOx emissions reductions for our region. There are a number of critical opportunities for achieving additional emissions reductions for mobile sources, including interstate heavy-duty trucks, locomotives, and other mobile sources under EPA jurisdiction. There is unprecedented funding available. We've been talking to your board about that over the past couple meetings. Given our air quality challenges and the significant number of disadvantaged communities, underserved communities in our region, we really call upon EPA and other federal agencies to prioritize and integrate new opportunities in this plan, as well as tips for other extreme ozone and serious PM2.5 non-attainment areas. We think there's a really important opportunity to prioritize our region so that we can continue to be a model of success for regulations and partnerships and funding. I do want to talk a bit about contingency measures. You all know how much I love to talk about contingency measures. This is a very challenging requirement of the Clean Air Act. These are contingency measures don't even improve air quality right now, because contingency measures are the backup measures. Attainment plans are required to have them. The Clean Air Act wants you to have backup measures that you would implement in the event that you fail to meet one of your progress milestones or you fail to meet your attainment target on time. Interpretation of this requirement has changed a lot over the past 5 years or so. And at this point, contingency measures are extremely challenging, especially for an area like ours, but really nationwide, because of the non-attainment challenges we're facing under multiple NAAQS. We got 3 ozone standards we're worried about and 3 PM2.5 standards we're worried about, new standards on the horizon. We're already implementing the most stringent controls we can. We're not holding anything back here. This contingency measures require automatic implementation through a contingency trigger. That's just not feasible. Most technologies require certainty and investment. You can't hold it back just in case and then implement it all of a sudden if EPA decides you need it. There's just a scarcity of measures that meet this highly restrictive contingency definition. The plan before you today includes a contingency demonstration that additional measures are scarce given the district and CARB regulatory control program. The district is continuing to work collaboratively with CARB, with EPA to address contingency requirements, and we're awaiting EPA guidance. So that EPA guidance was supposed to come out last month. It hasn't come out yet. We're continuing to advocate and try to drive this policy issue to a place that makes sense, to a place that honors the spirit of having a backup plan while not shortchanging public health benefits. Because if we have a way to reduce emissions, we want to do it. We don't want to hold it back. We don't want to get sanctioned for a requirement that is just unnecessarily difficult to meet. And we have contingency measure issues for multiple NAAQS, not just for this plan, and it's something we're continuing to work on. This plan was developed through an extensive public process. As I've said, it's been going on over 2 years. We've had multiple opportunities for public and stakeholders to offer feedback. We've had several workshops, ongoing presentations at various public meetings, the noticing of plan workshops and commenting opportunities through many of our listservs that anyone can sign up for, including listservs for regulated entities, our AB 617 committees, and more. The plan is supported by the district CAC, which is made up of members representing environmental, industry, ag, and city interests. As you heard, we had an exciting discussion at the CAC a couple weeks ago, and when we presented the plan to them. We have a dedicated ozone plan webpage that's always had the most up-to-date information on what the plan includes and how people could communicate with us about the plan. And the public will have additional opportunities for involvement as individual strategies are developed over the coming years. I do want to highlight some of the significant comments and responses we've received as we've gone through this process. The comments provided through public engagement were really critical in shaping the proposed plan that is before you today. One key commenting area was pesticides. That we had some suggest that the plan should include more pesticide measures. And on the other hand, we had others concerned that the plan was impeding DPR, Department of Pesticide Regulations Authority, and adding duplicative requirements. And our response there is the plan before you includes a DPR measure to develop a 1,3D regulation consistent with an existing commitment. There's an existing DPR commitment already on the books, and we're reflecting that pre-existing commitment in the plan. And CARB is in the process. They're clarifying the regulatory authority that sits with DPR and not with CARB, and they're clarifying the emissions reductions for the purpose of the state SIP strategy. So we just want to clarify that the measures included in the SIP as something that was happening, and we're documenting it, but we're not establishing new regulatory authority for our agency or CARBs. We received some comments on ISR, our indirect source review rule. Some were calling for the district to expand our current ISR rule to existing warehouse, like the South Coast rule that was recently adopted. And meanwhile, we had others concerned about the stringency and impact our ISR rules already having. And the response there is that our rule, it's Rule 9510, our ISR rule, it was the first and only of its kind. It is actually more stringent than the South Coast rule in a lot of ways. It applies to a wide range of development, including but not limited to warehouses. And it's been on the books since 2005. Every now and then we get people, I say, well, why don't you have an ISR rule like South Coast? It's like we've had an ISR rule over a decade before South Coast did. And we are monitoring the South Coast rule, though, with great interest. There's a litigation going on related to their warehouse rule, and we are committed to exploring potential enhancements when those opportunities arise. We received some comments about building decarbonization. Some have suggested that we wait on residential electrification until equity concerns are addressed, and others suggest mandating electrification for residential and building heating, and so somewhat more and somewhat less. There is a state commitment in the state SIP strategy that's incorporated into the plan before you that includes new building decarbonization standards effective in 2030. This is a pretty ambitious regulation as it is that CARB is committed to in their plan. And we are committed to partnering with them and South Coast and any other agency as to get equitable implementation of those opportunities in the Valley. It's really critical that there is strong engagement with community stakeholders to ensure equity as this program is adopted and implemented. We received some comments about stationary sources, and some suggested that additional rules should be adopted to further reduce emissions from stationary sources in the Valley, and others suggest that the plan measures would have significant economic impacts. The district did recently amend numerous stationary source rules, including rules for flares and boilers, steam generators, process heaters, IC engines, and glass manufacturing. And there are commitments for enhancing numerous oil and gas, LDAR, and sump regulations. We're continuing to evaluate new opportunities, including industrial electrification, but based on the analysis documented in the plan, the control strategy before you is technologically and economically feasible based on currently available information. We received some comments on agricultural burning. Some suggest that ag burning should be phased out ahead of the current deadline, which is the current 2025 deadline, and others have expressed concerns about the feasibility and impact of the current phase out to small growers. As you've heard before, the district is the only region in California in the nation with stringent requirements that phase out agricultural open burning. And since the adoption of the final phase out strategy in June of 2021, the Valley has seen a tremendous reduction in burning already through district funded deployment of new alternatives. The Valley is on track to meeting our 90% reduction in historical levels by the end of the year. And the adopted phase-out strategy includes really stringent intermediate restrictions that have already phased out the majority of burning. The remaining requirements are focused on transitioning smaller growers to new alternatives by the end of next year. So again, considering the totality of circumstances, we believe that the current strategy does reflect ambitious emissions reductions while also considering, the technological and economic feasibility of further reductions. So here are the recommendations from staff for your board today. We recommend that you adopt the proposed 2022 ozone plan and authorize the chair to sign the attached resolution for this proposed plan and direct staff to forward the adopted 2022 plan and resolution to CARB for approval and submittal to EPA. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Samir to see what I missed.
Nothing.
That was very comprehensive. And I thanks again to the team for this. And I'll actually turn it back to the chair and the board for discussion and action on it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. That was one of the most thorough presentations we've had, and I know it's been years in the making. I know not everyone agrees, obviously, with the plan, but the plan looks really solid. So I'm going to go to the board, and I'm going to go to Member Wheeler first.
Thank you. Whoop, thank you. Can you hear with my mask on?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure, because some people say I'm mumbling. I mumble a lot anyway, but.
We can hear you, Mike.
Yeah. It's a great plan, and it's something that we've been working on forever since I've been on here. But adding pesticides to this, any part of it is totally, I think, out of our realm of our duties. And they're regulated enough. Working on that ranch, I had an applicator's license and a commercial to be able to buy it too. And it's amazing what you have to do to get that. And then to bring in the airboard into it too, I think is just ridiculous. So if we could just put on there that page 29, just strike and say, we're not involved with that. Keep it yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Pacheco Warner.
Hi, thank you so much, and forgive me ahead of time for just the length of questions. I think I'm just, preempting a lot of what will be asked in January at CARB, and would rather hear it from you than, others. So, first of all, on a personal note, as someone living with asthma, I can tell you that, while PM is definitely important for us, during the winter, nothing makes me feel more pain than ozone. And I have an internal detector of ozone in my lungs. I know when ozone's bad in the summer. And I can tell you that I'm sure that kids and other people around the valley share that, and which is all the further praise for everyone and the commitments that they've done over the years to reduce ozone in our valley, because it is so impactful. I know that in terms of reading the graph on the deadlines and 2022, the graph that puts the different standards.
Slide 9.
Yeah, I believe that one with the little dots of the different attainment deadlines. Yeah. So are you saying we have met the standard, or we are on track to meet the standard?
We're working on it to be able to show, through the chair, if I could just address that really quick. Yeah, to be able to show that you've met attainments, you actually have to do what's called a clean data demonstration. And that relies on taking all of the quality assured air monitoring data, which is a collection of our data and CARB's data, and actually reviewing it, taking a look at the data, analyzing the data, and then looking at things like wildfire impacts. That's a big part of looking at that data, if there are any exceptional events that need to be factored in. So that's actually an ongoing evaluation that's happening right now. So indications are that we're either there or very close to being there, just based on that cursory review that's been done. But that's an ongoing evaluation at this point. So until that's been done, you can't really establish that you've met the standard. But that is something that we hope to have completed, with 2022 data to see where we are, and then depending on that, obviously moving over into 2023 and continuing that evaluation as well.
Thank you. And on the wood burning fireplaces and wood burning heaters, remind me, are further enhancements beyond the 2019? Is that part of what we're talking about for contingency measures for other plans? Or are we just, is that on the table at all, further enhancements to that rule?
So you're talking about the residential wood burning rule, 4901? Yeah, so, as a related matter, we are going to be, going through the process here shortly with CARB to develop updated contingency measures related to the PM 2.5 issues. So there's a couple of different, requirements that need to be met there. Certainly that, the board has had that conversation in the past about the role that the residential wood burning rule could play in the context of contingency. In fact, actually had adopted a contingency at one point. So it's certainly on the table in terms of that conversation. With the ozone plan, it's not included as a specific measure in the ozone plan. But I think same comment, right? So based on the guidance that is, we anticipate and hopefully comes out soon from EPA, so that we have better clarity on those requirements as well. That and whatever other measures us or CARB are able to identify in that process is going to be what will be taken to that public process and return to our board here as well as CARB with those measures.
Yeah, I guess as a follow-up to that conversation, because, I wasn't clear by the language. Are you saying that we're not submitting any contingency measures in this plan? So is EPA just gonna not approve our plan because we don't have any contingency measures, or are people gonna, what?
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't speak for EPA on this issue, but because we just don't know how they act on plans until they've evaluated them. But there is a contingency demonstration in the plan, which does outline the way we understand, sort of the contingency issues, the scarcity of measures. Us and CARB both contributed to that conversation. But the section also is very clear about the fact that there isn't new EPA guidance adopted yet, and to the extent that we need to respond to that, it includes a commitment to make sure that we submit in the appropriate format whatever is needed to bring that to address that requirement. So there is a demonstration, but at the same time, a very obvious recognition, as we've talked about at the study session, as we talked about at CARB, as we continue talking about the fact that EPA has not yet put that guidance out, and so we are in an uncertain place on that until we see that final guidance from EPA.
Right, but the guidance will probably at this point come beyond our deadline to submit, which is coming up on this, right?
That is 100% correct, right? Now, in terms of EPA approval, disapproval, and the timing for that, depending on that guidance, depending on whatever remaining elements would need to be submitted, and sort of the timing of that action, that's why we can't really weigh in on whether or not there'd be disapproval or approval. My estimation would be to try to make sure those requirements are addressed so that we do receive full approval as those requirements are communicated to us and CARB.
Thank you. I'm definitely excited for the SIP strengthening measure commitments, and I look forward to the robust engagement process to come on that piece. And so I'm happy that we are also open to enhancements on the ISR, and I do look forward to conversations in 2023 about enhancement opportunities, and I hope that we are able to look at enhancement opportunities beyond the scope of what's in South Coast, so that we can, we don't necessarily have to rely on that, thing of, what they're intending to do with the existing, but also look for other opportunities if they're out there, and I know that's sort of searching the bottom of the barrel there, but I do know that the impact of some of the building and the projected building around, communities up and down the 99. And I hope that we can, think about how to contribute positively to that conversation. But to that end, on the building decarbonization, a lot of the comments were around continuing to work with South Coast and CARB on the conversations. I'd like to know a little bit more about what our needs are on the decarbonization front, on partnerships with PG&E and CPUC as well in terms of that piece. And, obviously anything that I can help elevate, but then also, do we have a full understanding yet of what the Central Valley needs and can do on that?
I think to answer your last question, I think the answer is no. I think we do need to continue And we actually received, some really diverse comments actually on that issue. There from even within community advocacy organizations. I mean, there's some comments related to, equity concerns and making sure that we don't focus as much on residential, until we make sure that whatever is done to residents is equitable, right? And other concerns on the exact opposite of that related to rapid electrification, mandates. I mean, the good thing is that, you've been playing a really important role, and there is an existing adopted state commitment to develop this measure, right? Actually in the next couple of years, that would then start being implemented by that 2030 timeframe. So there is going to be a very robust engagement on that, where I think a lot of the questions that you're raising, very good points that you're raising, are going to be evaluated. The PUC has to be a part of that, right? Because a lot of what we're talking about here is going to involve the utilities, a lot of manufacturers. It has to be interagency. It's only going to be rapid, I think, if us, CARB, and South Coast are looking at this together, as opposed to just having different messages and different things going on. So there is a very strong commitment already in the state SIP that was just adopted a couple of months ago that actually, establishes the foundation for that to happen. And through our commitments are also committing to being a part of that and seeing what we could do at the local level to support that process.
Yeah, I hope that in this further process of the engagement at the state level that all of my fellow board members or their respective agencies are involved in that conversation, because I don't think that there is a strong sense or understanding about what the needs here are in the San Joaquin Valley. And if we're not there to offer our voice, let's just say that, what I heard PG&E say was not what I experienced. So, yeah.
Thank you. Member Shecklian.
Yeah, I just want to echo and support Supervisor Wheeler's comments regarding the increased measures for pesticides. I think we have an agency that already regulates that, and to task our staff and burden our staff with more work in doing that, I would not support.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just respond to that, to clarify and perhaps provide a pathway, for responding to the concern that's being raised around pesticides. I think clarification first. The measure that is in the plan, it's already been adopted by CARB, and it's in what's called the state SIP strategy, a 2022 state SIP. So it's already in the books with CARB's plan. That measure, if you call it that, is it's a DPR measure. So it's not committing CARB itself or us to developing that measure or anything like that. Obviously, anything we can do to support the engagement and making sure it's a robust process. We're partners with CARB and DPR in whatever ways we can support that process. But that, just to clarify that, we're not committing to adopting a 1,3-D regulation. CARB is not committing to adopting a 1,3-D regulation. DPR is basically documenting in this plan their ongoing process to adopt a 1,3-D regulation. So just to clarify that bit. Now, it does sound like there's a concern that there needs to be clarity around, the regulatory authority, that there's robust public. I'm interpreting also good public engagement with ag and others as DPR conducts that process. I think that's something. If there's more comments around those lines, or even just based on the several that have been provided thus far, that's something we can actually communicate also coming out of this board meeting, that we could share, with the agencies that are involved in this. But I just wanted to make sure it was clear that, by voting on this plan, you're not voting on the district itself adopting some new measure or even CARB, and it's also something that's been adopted already in the state SIP from the September strategy. So any comments or any changes to the way that was adopted, that would have happened in the processes leading up to CARB actually adopting that at that time. So just to be just clear about what's in the plan with regard to pesticides.
Thank you.
Perfect.
You just explained tell.
Yep.
Okay.
Member Preciado. Can you turn on your microphone, please?
Sorry. So I actually have a couple of questions. You mentioned that in the last 40 years, a reduction of on NOx was from 400 to 400. Is that part per million, or what is the reduction rate that you mentioned? From 800 to 200? Mhm. So is that, the reduction rate, what is it, in parts per million, or what is the? In tons, in tons.
Pardon me, sorry, then,
Mhm.
that reduction is in tons of NOx per day.
Oh, tons per day, okay. Thank you. And the other question that I had was regarding, you just mentioned that you've been working for the last 2 years, and you've made state and nationwide comparison with our district. So can you pinpoint the major differences between our district with NOx and ozone compared to nationwide and statewide?
As far as comparing our regulations to regulations in other places, are you asking more about the process or the findings?
The findings.
The findings. The findings are that our regulations are as stringent, if not more stringent, than every other regulation we evaluated. And I will say that now and then people will look at individual sentences and regulations and say, oh, that regulation's more stringent than yours because you have this sentence. But you can never evaluate a regulation based on one sentence. You have to look at the entire context of the rule and the entire control strategy. And we looked at all the major air districts in California and beyond to see if anyone was doing anything feasible that we weren't doing. And the conclusion is, after 300 pages of analysis and years of work, that our control measures are as stringent, if not much more so, than all the other areas we looked at.
And I think of the 300 pages would be Appendix
Appendix C.
Appendix C of the plan. That it kind of goes through every category of source, identifies different regulations. Whether it's glass manufacturing furnaces or whatever category it might be, our rules are actually way more stringent than a lot of other regulations in many cases. So I mean, but you can see that category by category as you review the analysis in the plan. So I don't know if you have a specific area or.
No, yes, in general.
Because it's very extensive. There's many different categories and stuff.
And we do evaluate all of them. That's part of why it's so long. Every facet of our inventory, every sector of our economy gets evaluated as part of that process.
Which is good to know. And the last question is regarding about the pesticides. I know, just to clarify, like you mentioned before, we're not a regulatory agency for pesticides. So what is the benefits, or why is it included in the plan? What will be the benefit for supporting that?
I'll take a first crack, but backfill if I miss anything, Jesse. Yeah. So the Department of Pesticide Regulation has for a very long time actually been a part of ozone planning. You know, in this particular case, 1,3-D is a volatile organic compound, so it's a VOC, like other VOC sources, right? So it's not unusual for there to be estimates of emissions from. In fact, you have to understand those emissions to be able to develop the plan. And for many years now, DPR has been a part of establishing new limits, reducing emissions. They establish caps. So there's, we didn't get into all the details about the role that DPR plays in being a part of ozone planning, but there is a history to this, and so the plan basically reflects sort of the most updated information around, in this particular case, the measure that DPR is adopting that will reduce, or is anticipated to reduce, VOC emissions from this particular source, 1,3-D. So that's really how it comes into play, is that it is a part of the overall conversation on that. And CARB, my understanding is, as we move over into assuming that there's a plan forwarded to CARB, their plan would be to adopt their plan in January. And I think that they're also, they're them being a state agency, DPR also being a state agency, any additional clarification or other information they have about that ongoing effort by DPR to reduce VOCs, they're also going to continue sharing that information so the public can see how all of this works together.
Yes, thank you. The reason I ask is because it is raising concerns and questions regarding those pesticides, but thank you very much to clarify that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Dr. Sheriffs?
Thank you. Jesse, good job. It's hard to make 1,000 pages palatable, and I wouldn't ask that, but you've certainly made it more understandable. You've added a lot of clarification. I appreciate that. Huge problem. We continue to soil our nest. And success clearly depends on the collaborations that have been talked about in some of the questions with CARB, with other districts, with businesses, with public agencies, schools, community groups. And I think about our engagement commitment, which is so important, it's contained in here. And it's not just the regulated community, it's not just community groups, it's the sensitive groups. Those days where we have air quality sensitive groups beware, unfortunately, most of the public falls into, over 50% is that sensitive group. Us older people, people with asthma, people with lung disease, kids. So it's a little harder to figure out how do you engage that sensitive group, and have you done it by proxy when you engage community groups in the regulated community? But it's something we need to continue to be concerned about and think about how to do better. I think it's a great plan, but I can't call it expeditious when it's going to take 15 years. And I understand the complications, the things we have to deal with, the moving parts, the things that have to change, and how we build on past success and moving forward. But we really do need to bear in mind, anytime we can find something that gets us there faster, because as was pointed out, I think in this report, yearly health impacts of a delay are order of magnitude $1 to $2 billion. This is a huge cost to the Valley in terms of lost days of work, in terms of emergency room visits. So yes, every time we can move closer sooner, there is a real value to that. Any plan's going to be imperfect. I think it is so important, the commitments that you outlined, page 12, page 15 in this presentation, review of what other districts are doing, particularly South Coast. And then I think, our attitude, not why can't we do that here, but how do we, given our local conditions, adopt those kinds of policies that help us get there faster. I'll come to a question, but an observation. Our thinking, in a sense, we need to be out of the box. We've talked about that a lot, how difficult the challenge is. And I just look at the slide that you put on vehicle miles traveled. Are we expecting vehicle miles traveled to solve itself because there'll be better federal regulations and because of electrification of transportation in terms of vehicles and trucks? And boy, it's not that simple, is it? It doesn't fix itself. And although vehicle miles traveled in many ways is sort of not our bailiwick, there are decisions, land use decisions and other things that really affect that at some point we need to engage on. A question. Boy, climate change makes this a moving goal. Climate change will increase the challenge of, the pollutants that are created in the valley with the added heat, particularly given a 15-year time span, is going to raise the bar for us, is going to increase the challenge. So I don't know in terms of any modeling we may be doing to be thinking ahead of that, what's going on at CARB with that. But unfortunately, that's another reason we need to stay flexible. And, it's not that yes, we need to move this plan forward, but it's clear it's not done and move on. This is what we've got today, and we will continue to make it better as time goes on. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just a very quick response, just in terms of some additional information. helps, I think, clarify and provide some reassurance to Dr. Sheriff's comments. On the issue of climate change and how to make sure it's a conservative plan. That part of the reason why 2018 was selected as a base year is because it was actually bad meteorology, and bad meaning that it was a year during which conditions were conducive to ozone formation. And so the plan is modeled sort of with conservative assumptions, and even includes wildfire emissions and impacts in its. So that this is even with wildfire impacts we're projecting that would be able to meet the standard. So there is a conservative aspect to the plan. It doesn't necessarily fully answer the question around projecting some of the impacts of climate change, but it just to provide some reassurance that it was based on you have to meet the standard under conservative modeling assumptions as opposed to maybe rosier conditions. And just one other thing about the South Coast, to make sure it's clear, because it came up a few times, building decarbonization or the ISR suggestions. Just to be very clear about this, our rules are actually more stringent than South Coast's, and this is just a fact. And the reason I want to clarify this is because now South Coast is working on really ambitious, and they're working very closely with us as partners as they unwind a program. It's called the Reclaim Program. It was basically an alternative to actually installing control technologies at a lot of their sources down there. They've been unwinding that program and basically putting into place what we've had in place for decades now, which are regulatory programs that actually just simply require control technologies to be installed across all these different categories. So when you hear about some of their upcoming regulations, the big context for the majority of those is because they had to unwind a program that they're now actually putting the similar rules that we've had in place here for a very long time. So there's a bigger picture around while we interact with them and obviously look for opportunities from them, they're interacting with us to look for opportunities from us. And I just want to make sure there's a lot of clarity around that issue, because it's complex, and for sure on the building decarbonization side, for example, we're both sharing notes with each other and seeing how can we both be constructive as a state really consider that. So I just want to be very clear about that, just because we didn't spend much time really unpacking some of those complexities during the presentation.
Thank you. Member Peterson?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe a little yin to the yang. Maybe a little yin to the yang here. No, my question kind of centers around, Dr. Sheriff's comments about, what we do in our nest. And, this district, the state is so far technically advanced in the protection of our natural resources, our air. How are we doing it georeferencing global impacts? Because we can do what we can do here. We talk about, the Biden administration, they're gonna, we heard that they may once again lower the standards or the I don't know where it'll go, maybe from 70 to 65 parts per million or what on ozone. But I know you do a great job at finding sources but how do we measure the impacts? And my fear is always that, this district has done so much, right? I heard an $8 billion payment to Russia or to some other country to eliminate, coal burning. But how are we doing it georeferencing or geofencing our district and understanding the global impact of those that do nothing and the cost applied to this district based on other countries doing nothing? And here we are, we're trying to be, this most advanced society on earth, but that still doesn't stop the impacts of global nations that are not.
So that is a question and not a comment, right?
Yeah, no, it is. How are we doing at our global fencing of our impacts, our nest, and what are the measurements of what others are doing and affecting our progress.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll keep it at a fairly high level, and you need to try to apply the question to what we do here and how we compare. First, I think within the country, as we've shared, we do more in this region. When you combine our measures with state measures within the country, we're definitely far ahead of other parts of the country. There's many examples of that where EPA comes out with something, and a new requirement or something, and we've been doing it for 15 years already. And other parts of the state are just catching up on that, across industrial sources or whatever the source might be. So that's already, and that's a very well established, record of that. And now, as far as like how our country or our state or our country compares to other parts of the world, absolutely. And I think the latest example of where you see the state of California putting together its own blueprint, say in the context of climate change, the scoping plan was just recently pulled together, and I'm looking towards Dr. Pacheco Warner, who just went through very lengthy hearings and a lot of conversation around that. And in that conversation, clearly, California is leading, and other countries are not doing nearly as much as some countries are. There's different approaches going on. Some countries are challenging themselves. Other countries are there's major issues, and we saw all of this playing out as well in Egypt recently with the climate conference over there and all the big negotiations that are going on. So it is very complicated. It is a major issue that you're identifying, which is, there are some that are doing more, some that are doing less, but there's also historical context to this as well in terms of industrial growth over the years and equity issues. So it's very complicated. I don't know if I'm fully answering the question, but I think the point that you're trying to make is that our region does continue to keep trying to keep adding more investment, to keep trying to push the envelope. We do have unique issues here. So we have to do more in this region than other regions to meet the same goals. So the goals are established across the country. And so we do have to keep investing here. And it is definitely more than I would say, any other area out there. And just to keep it within the country. And then obviously as a country, there are definitely some issues there as well on a global level.
Well, I just look at the historical experience of this district, and roughly $4.5 billion of investment in clean air technology and improving air quality, and then I see a payment to another country of $8 billion. That's doubles what our investment has been, and the question is, from a global standpoint, you can do what you can do, right? We're going to lower. Here we are. The administration may, further lower the standard, and once again, we're going to reapply another level of responsibility to industry, to every person that lives in this state and nation. And are we truly, achieving the goal that we're after, or are there bigger fish to fry? And obviously we don't have that authority. I know they're working on that, but it's just a concern that I have that, listen, our nest is cleaner every day. And, I think that's very important to pay attention to, and you can do what you can do. The rest of it is what it is. And, so I just, want to make sure that, while we always strive to do more, there's limitations on what this district can do to impact air quality, because we're a global society, and air doesn't stay in the fence of our country or our state or someone else's.
Very good. Member Mendez?
Really didn't want to say anything, but this thing just progressed way too far. Number one, I appreciate your approach to this plan. Number one, we are not a land use, organization, no matter what the hell people want to say or think. We're not that. We are not a pesticide regulating agency, no matter what the hell anybody wants to say. It's not our job. And I totally understand that the pesticide that's in this deal actually came through the pesticide regulating groups. And this is because it's a volatile pesticide. And I don't want to go into that, but Craig hit on something that, I'm just going to say this and we'll move on. Our founding fathers had and it's not in the Constitution. It's always talked about as separation of church and state. But it's not in the Constitution. It's not in anything. But what I'm talking about, what we've been talking about, what Craig was talking about, this whole climate change deal has now become a religion. It's a state religion. And that's something we need to be very careful moving forward, because even what I'm talking about to some people is heresy. Again, a religious statement. But this country has moved in, and a lot of the world, even in Holland, right now they're talking about they want to eliminate 3,000 farmers. The news media doesn't want to say nothing. It's hard to get actual information of what's going on over there and what the protests are going over there, because it's a state religion in this state and a lot of states in this country. And that's all I'm going to say about this.
Thank you, Member Dr. Pacheco Warner.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention to some of the points that Supervisor Peterson made. I think, because, and Dr. Sheriff, I think because extreme heat, is happening, we're seeing it, it's something we're going to live with. I think one of the interesting notes to think about is that there's been some recent, very interesting studies about the importance of urban greening in mitigating extreme temperatures, and really looking at it neighborhood by neighborhood and being able to compare differences even within the same geographical area. So I think there might be some potential demonstration there with the commitments we've already made around 617 around urban greening, to see how we can, once again lead our state in terms of some of that work, demonstrating mitigation effects.
Thank you. All right, I see no more comments. Yeah, Dr. Sheriff?
Maybe I need to apologize for the direction the conversation took. I did not mean to be proselytizing. My comment about climate change was not that we be doing something other than recognize that these numbers are out there and we get to deal with the consequences, regardless of the source or, so that was my question. And the land use issue, I was not suggesting we take over land use, but recognizing we feel vehicle miles traveled is important.
Most important thing.
Land use is an issue. It may not be our responsibility, authority, expertise, but we certainly do have some things to suggest to help agencies deal with it. And that was my point. So I apologize if
I wonder if anyone else was thinking, what does proselytizing mean? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I was helping Amy out there on that one, right? So and it's always, this is why I love the board, right? We're having conversation. We always have the benefit when we walk in, and I don't know if the camera can pan over to the major reductions in pollution, because it always looks amazing to me when we look at 1980 and how far we've come. We didn't get to 1980. It didn't go up mysteriously over 10 years. It was that was probably the high point. And now the hard work, because it was easy to do reductions in the beginning. There was the low hanging fruit, as you would call it. And now we're down to mobile sources becoming the largest component of which we need to deal with. And it's expensive, and it's vehicle miles traveled with a growing population. It's a electric grid that can't handle everything right now today. And so it's going to be very expensive. And the $4 billion plus investment you can see it needs to be accelerated at this point in order to get the same reductions, because the business community, a job is a part of a healthy community, having jobs available. And so when you think of it that way, trying to force business, 100% of this on business is not good, because they can move to a different area and you create the same health problems. Maybe it's not the health problem from an asthmatic, but it's a health problem from people's psychology not being able to afford to live here. And so that creates a different problem. So I think, you know, there's challenges on the horizon, and we sometimes pick winners and losers, unfortunately, because we're looking for the biggest bang for the buck. As we take a fleet and we convert to electric, I know Frito-Lay, and next month we're doing a groundbreaking. They have new Teslas, but as that is underwritten for them, then you have the farm community, and we've discussed this, where the trucks pre-13 are no longer viable. There's no buy-up program. There's no incentive program. And so we're creating this two-tier system. So we have to be careful in our decision-making on a go-forward basis. But again, we know we have to continue to clean the air. And this plan is showing that we have the ability to do it. Nothing's ever fast enough. I see that just based on the 1980, you know, that's a 40-year map over there that it took us to get 90% improvement. And then we still have to do another 90% on a go-forward basis. And Tom Jordan reminds me of that all the time. So I appreciate it. Okay, so now we're going to go out to the public.
We do have public comment. Miss Cynthia Pinto Cabrera online.
Good afternoon, Cynthia.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the board. Cynthia Pinto Cabrera, Policy Coordinator with the Central Valley Air Quality Coalition, or CVAC. And CVAC has been closely engaged in this process, as well as various SIP processes in the past 2 decades. And as an asthmatic and Valley resident, and these plans are extremely important for my family, my community, our community. We look to Valley Air and its governing board to act as a public health agency that protects our health, and our well-being is prioritized first and foremost. And the presentation today noted a variety of rules that has been amended or in the process of being amended. While it is great to see some critical changes in these no rule amendment processes included a public health and social cost analysis, like Dr. Sheriff mentioned, the lost work days, hospitalizations, medical costs, things like that. As the air basin with the most polluted air in the nation, and one of the most poorest and most unequal places to live in the United States, this plan presents an opportunity to prioritize environmental justice communities. Now, ultimately, we feel like this plan falls short of adopting some more ambitious measures to reduce emissions. This plan was an opportunity to show innovative leadership and should have included comments and commitments to do the indirect source rule to identify ways to address the disproportionate impacts on those environmental justice communities and communities of color associated with magnet sources like the warehouses. Other opportunities included committing to the VOC reductions of pesticides and proposing measures to reduce soil NOx, the soil NOx contribution to overall ozone levels in the valley. Along with a robust plan that needed stringent enforcement, the district also missed an opportunity to provide assurances that the Valley Air District is complying with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act related to the Clean Air Act. And this plan lacks the discussion of Title VI, again, related to those environmental justice communities and the disproportionate impacts. So we really hope that these policies should be included in plans like this. We need to adopt more ambitious measures to protect communities of color and our environmental justice communities who are our friends, our neighbors, and our families, while also keeping them meaningfully engaged in these processes that have real life consequences on our health and our livelihoods. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
We have Genevieve Amsalem.
Afternoon, Genevieve.
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. My name is Genevieve Amsalem. I'm the Research and Policy Director for the Central California Environmental Justice Network. Thank you for this great conversation on the ozone plan. One thing I'd like to add on process, and it's something that I've found in other public processes, that allowing the public to comment first allows for the board to take into consideration our comments and kind of weave it into your discussion. And so as a friendly suggestion, I would offer that you consider in the future allowing public comment to go first. I want to speak about what Cynthia had just brought up about the indirect source review rule. It is true, the district made the most stringent ISR rule in the nation when it first came out with its rule, first of its kind. But there have been conversations recently about ways that this rule could be improved, especially within the Fresno AB 617 Community Steering Committee meetings. Things that community members are interested in that mirror some of the South Coast rule is local mitigation. And if a project has to pay into a fund because of the emissions it will create, there is a desire for that funding to stay local. And so it doesn't go to 2 counties away, but the community being most impacted is the one that also will hopefully reap some benefits. Another part of the ISR rule that could be updated would be to make it retroactive to apply to all warehouses. Since the rule was adopted, it applied to new large facilities, but there was a loophole for quite some time. And so making it retroactive could have a larger impact. And also the South Coast rule does push these warehouses to have electric, to get solar panels on their homes, on the tops of their buildings. And it also incentivizes warehouses to help with air filtration in nearby schools and residences. So these are all improvements that I think we should keep discussing. And I know there is litigation, and hopefully that will be settled by sometime next year. But I do think this is a great opportunity for us to publicly engage and talk about the opportunities here for improvements. So thank you for this great discussion. And I will end there. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments, Genevieve.
Miss Christine Zimmerman.
Hi,
Hey.
Christine.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, I guess it is now. I just wanted to start, I mean, goodness, we just had such a great and long conversation, but I guess I'd like to start by complimenting Jesse and thanking district staff for the amazing amount of work that went into developing this plan. And I know that it was a vast and challenging amount of work because several of the rules that were revised under it were revised based on the industry that I represent. And I have such good feelings about the work that both the district and industry did in developing these measures, because I live just not too far from downtown Shafter on the edge of Bakersfield. I have a daughter who has a reactive airway. I have a reactive airway. Industry is obviously spending a lot of money and is very, very concerned and works to stay in business. But also those of us who work for these businesses have to live here and choose to live here. I'm the 5th generation. This is my home. And so I appreciate very much seeing all of the work and the deliberation that have gone into this and that will continue to. We talked about LDAR. Right now, we're looking at leak detection and repair at the EPA level, at the CARB level, and at the district level. There's no fixed point in the technology or in the work that we're trying to do to make sure that we stay on top of leak detection and repair. And I'm certain that we're going to be working together significantly in the months and years ahead as we continue to implement this plan. So just thank you to the board, thank you to the staff, and wanted to leave with the statement that the Western States Petroleum Association supports this plan. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you for your comments, Christine.
Michael Benjamin.
Welcome, Michael.
Good afternoon. Thank you for providing the opportunity to testify. My name is Michael Benjamin, and I am Chief of the Air Quality Planning and Science Division at the California Air Resources Board, or CARB. On behalf of CARB, I am here today in support of the 2022 ozone plan that is before you. In my role at CARB, I and my team work closely with your staff as well as those at other local air districts to develop state implementation plans, or SIPs, that meet federal Clean Air Act requirements and demonstrate a pathway towards timely attainment of the ambient air quality standards. The ozone plan that you are considering for the San Joaquin Valley is the culmination of years of work between district and CARB staff, conducting extensive technical analysis and identifying a range of measures and strategies that we believe will bring the Valley into compliance with the 2015 8-hour ozone standard by the 2037 attainment deadline. To support attainment of the 2015 standard in the San Joaquin Valley and across California, CARB staff develops the 2022 state SIP strategy. 2022 state SIP strategy describes the control measures for state regulated sources that CARB will pursue in order to reduce emissions to the levels needed for attainment of the 2015 ozone standard in the San Joaquin Valley and other areas in California. While not part of this plan, federal controls are needed across the state. Tighter federal emission standards for heavy-duty trucks and locomotives will benefit Valley residents and contribute to improved air quality. This past September, CARB approved the 2022 state SIP strategy, including the range of control measures for state-regulated sources that are critically needed for attainment. We believe that the combination of strategies in the 2022 state SIP strategy, complemented by the range of control measures developed by your staff, will provide the emissions reductions needed for attainment. Pending your approval of the plan for the San Joaquin Valley, CARB staff are scheduled to bring it to our board for their consideration in January of next year. If adopted by the CARB board early next year, we will move expeditiously to submit the San Joaquin Valley plan to the US EPA for inclusion in the California SIP. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to take a second to acknowledge and express appreciation to Michael Benjamin, Sylvia, and a number of CARB staff members that, as you heard from Jesse, were very helpful in preparing the plan. I can't even list all the various activities that were conducted in partnership with us on the modeling and all the other the workshops, public engagement. So I just wanted to just take a second to thank Michael for being here and for his team's work on supporting the plan development.
Yep. Agreed.
Perry Ellert?
Perry, welcome. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Perry Ellert. I'm a staff attorney with Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability. The 2022 ozone plan presents an opportunity to once and for all map out a strategy for how the Valley aims to finally reach and maintain a safe ozone level. Unfortunately, this plan falls short of that goal and fails to meet many Clean Air Act requirements. For starters, as we discussed, the plan lacks any contingency measures which are required by the Clean Air Act. Given the history of failure to meet any of the ozone or PM standards or meet multiple Clean Air Act deadlines, it's vital that contingency measures are included in this plan. Leadership Council and others have put forth many potential additional emissions controls that could be used to either more expeditiously meet the 2015 ozone standard or act as contingency measures. For example, we have suggested many ways to further strengthen the ISR rule. We have recommended additional pesticide controls with collaborations with DPR, and we've recommended improvements to the animal confinement rule 4570 by asking the district to analyze herd expansions and require emission reductions beyond offering an optional menu of controls. Those are just a few examples, but there are many others that we have recommended. The plan also does not make any mention of the district's duty to comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. As the district is aware, when it withdrew its PM 2.5 plan for failure to regulate ammonia and failure to comply with Title VI, it is a requirement that the district analyze in its SIP how the plan complies with Title VI to ensure the district's actions, including permitting actions, are not intentionally discriminatory or have a discriminatory effect based on race, color, or national origin. Just because we have 15 years to meet the 2015 standard doesn't mean we should wait till the last year to try to reach attainment. Doing so means Valley residents and the Valley's environment will continue to suffer longer. And excluding wildfire data from the Valley's calculation of attainment is very deceiving to residents, and we appreciate when the district does include wildfire data in their calculations. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
No further public comment online. We do have public comment in Fresno.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Air District staff. I want to thank you for the opportunity to comment on the plan. It's obvious that it's tough because a lot of these points have already been discussed. As I was writing them down, I realized board members are making the same comments that I'm making, so I'm very appreciative to get up and have the opportunity to kind of demonstrate that. Charts here displayed at district offices as well as in the presentation have really shown just the amount of effort that's gone into controlling all of these sources and the successes that the district has had in being able to achieve the emission reductions that we now see in the different graphs and charts presented to you, as well as the technology that's being implemented within the industry. And so we're appreciative to have those demonstrated, and we encourage you to show those as often as you possibly can for it. I also want to thank you for the explanation on the coordinated strategy across multiple agencies from the district level to ARB, as well as to DPR on the controlled strategies. My comments are specifically focusing on the pesticide inclusion. We do not want to see pesticides included as part of this strategy. We understand that DPR is the agency that oversees that and includes that as part of their plans. But we have significant concerns over even DPR's strategy to control 1,3-D use, and we would ask you to keep those as far away from this plan as possible. And while we understand and we appreciate the identification of mobile sources being a major component for the reductions that the Central Valley sees, and the efforts that the state has taken to try and reduce those through the use of incentives across multiple equipment categories, we're kind of in a panic mode at this point, I would think, to be able to procure and keep achieving and receiving those funds necessary for the required turnover for that kind of equipment. And the state's outlook is not looking good so far, even kind of in a preliminary update on the amount of money that's going to be coming for those kinds of projects. And so while we're going to continue to push for those, the turnover, the electrification of that type of equipment, we realize that those opportunities may not be as fruitful as they have been in the past for us. And so, again, it's something we're going to continue to push on and hope to be a part of achieving these types of requirements. So, thank you.
Can we get your name for the record?
I'm sorry, Chris McLaughlin. I'm with the California Cotton Ginners and Growers Association, as well as the Western Agricultural Processors Association. Sorry. Thank you,
Chris.
Good afternoon, Manuel Cunha, Nisei Farmers League. At this time, I want to thank Jessie and her team, Samir, ARB, Michael Benjamin. I don't know about EPA. I'm still on the question about EPA's supporting of this valley and supporting the food chain of this country. My concern is you have a pesticide regulation that was proposed by ARB/DPR. You have a study agency called SARMAC and Seacoast, were the biggest studies ever done. In agriculture, we said, hey, we'll be a part of that, and if the science says it, we do it. And we came up with PM10, CMP conservation management practices, over 45 practices, farm equipment. Apparently, ag burning isn't enough. We need to shut down the farming industry in this valley to appease the environmental community. I'd like to know how many of those people's jobs will be lost and what their health will be like. And some of you that are sitting at the diocese and some of you that are in this building understand what I'm going to say. When you're legal, you have no problem. When you're not legal in this country and you have a job, you have a bigger problem than a health problem, and that is to make your family survive and live. And many of our farm workers and other workers are in that situation. And apparently, the state doesn't concern itself about rural community jobs. And if some of you think so, you're wrong, because it doesn't. I've been in the fields. I went in the fields on Tuesday with a lot of mask and sanitizer and other things to help farm workers. And that's what I hear. When are we going to be able to become legal so we can go around? But let me get back to the issue. Pesticides, we have not seen one bit of data on 1,3-D3 at all, nor has even CDFA seen it. I haven't seen any emissions, how much ozone, how much NOx, or any of that. And you're also going to understand that we're going to take out 1 million acres on the west side. And it's starting this coming next month. We start to take out a lot of farm tractors. Chemicals, if you want to use that term, good, safe chemicals are going to be going. But nobody talks about that. And nobody talks about the fire that we've had in this valley, in this state, that have damaged us. But to Jesse, to your comment on the pesticides, we have not seen one bit of data. And you haven't seen one bit of data. You've just been told that it needs to be in the plan. If DPR wants to deal with air quality, then have DPR publish and be a part of that, not shove it onto ARB or shove it onto this district. It's not right, because our Seacoast studies and SAR maps were the founding issues for this district. And we based regulations and rules on science, not on some whack individual wanting to have pesticides removed from this valley or from this country or from this state. So I would hope that you do move the plan forward today, but that the caveat that pesticides must be removed. Because once it's in a plan, you're going to be sued to have that happen. With no science, I have not seen any of it, Mr. Chairman, not one bit of it. How can we even approve something like that when you don't even see it? So I'll stop, because I'm going to get out of hand. I'm going to be worse than Mr. Wheeler here in a minute. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
No further public comment in Fresno or online. I don't believe we have public in Modesto. Please state otherwise if that's the case. Bakersfield, do we have any public comment?
Yes, we have 2.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you. My name is Virgil Cryer. I'm the mayor pro tem of the city of Taft here in Kern County. I represent all the cities here in Kern County. I'm on a CAC board. Anyway, a lot of things been discussed here, and been very good conversations on a lot of things. And I'm in the farming industry. I'm also in the manufacturing industry in Modesto. So I'm spread out a little bit. But pesticides should not be on there. I agree with the board members, some of the board members, because once you put that on there, it might be innocent in the beginning, but it could be morphed into a greater issue that we'd probably be talking about later. And that's one of the concerns that I would have on there. We all want clean air. Who doesn't? But how do we get there that is attainable and common sense? Because you can throw all kinds of money into a project or into whatever we're trying to do to accomplish. It affects everybody. Like the oil industry, I've seen on there. In our city, we have a lot of oil. We're one of the largest in the state. And everything that the state's done in the past few years has impacted our city. Not only our city, it impacts our Kern County on our tax base. And there's always implications that always causes job loss. And a lot of those jobs in the oil industry pays over $100,000 a year with no education. So maybe a little bit of high school education, they need over $100,000 a year. And a lot of them are minorities. A lot of them are Hispanics. And they're all impacted. Here we're trying to help out the low-income people, and we're hurt, and we're some of the things are hurting us a lot. But you know, we are losing our oil industry. We're not producing the wells like we used to. Yeah, we get permits, but getting a permit to put a well in is just overregulated, just cost prohibitive. On the, you know, we're always going to have the low-lying fruits that we have achieved already. I think we see a lot of progress, but this takes Mother Nature. You can't control Mother Nature. It takes a volcano eruption, can take out one eruption, can take out everything, all the pollution in the whole world in one deal, or disasters that comes out here can change it. But these are some of the concerns I have that we look at and work with new technologies coming out here. Myself, I'll brag about myself a little bit, is I've developed patents and stuff for different technologies and things that we use nowadays. And it comes out, it evolves. Yes, we'll solve a lot of our issues, but we can't do it too soon. Some of it's just not practical. You throw money at it. By waiting a year or two, and with our technology and stuff, we can overcome some of the issues that we're having right now, but also in a later date. I know my time's out, but I just want to appreciate your time and interest, and I appreciate the board, because it is tough being on any board. You know, it's hard to make everybody happy, but thank you again, and God bless.
Thank you for your comments. It's tough cutting people off, but we got to keep them to 3 minutes, so on a go-forward basis. Go
Hi,
ahead.
my name is John Sanders. I work in the oil business. I'm here, we are a company that's a compliant company, because we have been doing this, you know, year by year, taking out pieces of equipment and adding pieces of equipment, but it's a repeated, it goes round and round and round. You know, you buy some used equipment, and in 2 years it's no good anymore. And we only buy used equipment because that's all that's available. There's not enough new equipment available to restock, or it's cost prohibitive. And I say this because the people in ag, they operate on a way different budget. They have shoestring budgets, and man, our food delivery and things like that, it's going to go to hell in a handbag real fast.
We just lost money.
And we're going to have a lot of people not doing well, that are good people who like to go to work. As far as this pesticide addition, we already have, I handle some of the paperwork for the Air Board, and we already have many duplications. Why are we going to add something else that we can't control later? It makes no sense to me. And as far as if we have a observation that 15 years is too long, but if we look at the graphs on the board here in Bakersfield and in each of your offices, and in 19 years we went down 92%. I don't see how it's going to take 15 years to do what we're doing to get, you know, the other 18% out to be at zero, because California, the people are leaving California. The day I can retire, I won't have to worry about these rules. I will be in Montana and Idaho and Wyoming. With that being said, I support this because I'm an asthma patient myself. I don't support I don't support organizations that don't stay in their lane. And I think the plan as it sets is more than adequate to get us to a proper place, you know, without adding other responsibilities and without other groups not staying in their lane. With that being said, you know, I appreciate what everyone has done. It's very comprehensive. I've spent some time, you know, sitting around the house reading this stuff and trying to explain it to my peers and the owner of my company. And I appreciate everything you've done. And I'm glad, you know, my health is better for it too. So thank you.
Thank you, John.
Marlene, any further comment in Bakersfield?
No further comment in Bakersfield.
Great, thank you. I think that concludes public comment.
So could I ask Samir, in the beginning about the pesticide, why the inclusion or what?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd like to, I'm going to provide a little bit of clarification. I think Annette could also maybe start off with some clarification on what today's action, would or would not include, and provide hopefully some assurance. But we'll start with that, and I wanted to add a little bit more as well on some of the other comments that were raised. But let's start with that,
Right, the
Annette.
proposed plan that is before you today does not include a pesticide regulation. It's not within the district's regulatory authority. It's within, it's proposed as part of the state's SIP, element. But it's not part of what you're being proposed to approve today. So I hope that gives you some clarification.
And to add even more clarification to Annette's clarification, the state has already adopted their state SIP that Jesse had talked about back in September. Now, if the board was interested in moving forward the plan today, if there is a recommendation to CARB and DPR about clarifying, further clarifying DPR's regulatory authority, certainly we could accompany the plan action with some kind of a recommendation. But the action that you're taking today is not in the state SIP. The CARB has the authority to adopt the state SIP, and they've already adopted the state SIP. We're now adopting the local measures that were discussed by Jesse. Those were clearly articulated what those commitments were. And then CARB ultimately taking the action they've already taken, they would take our measures that we were proposing today, and that would be the total action that they would take in January if that were to go before their board. So I just want to be very clear about where this pesticide measure is. It's already in a previously adopted state SIP. Now, but if there's a recommendation that you wanted to make on that, that's certainly the board can make that recommendation. But you're not in any way endorsing or approving that measure. It's already been adopted. Just a couple of quick things also on, there was a comment around not looking at increases in emissions increases associated with increased herds, confined animal facilities, dairies, and others. Those facilities are subject to permitting requirements. There are best available control technology requirements that would need to be implemented in the case of a modified facility that was increasing their herd size. Just want to make sure there was, for the record, some information on that. And then on the Title VI issue, this is something that we are, with CARB, very interested in making sure that we're always in compliance with Title VI. It's an ongoing requirement. It's been a requirement. There's guidance soon, perhaps from EPA, on anything else that they may want to see from areas like ours and others on state implementation plans. As that guidance comes out, of course, if there's anything that we need to do, we'd be fully committed to making sure that those are always implemented. And that's just a brief response to that. And with that, hopefully that answers the questions that have come up. A lot of questions around pesticides, obviously, today, and just happy to continue entertaining, any other questions, or happy to address any clarifications that are needed as part of that. I'll turn it back to you. Thanks.
Member Peterson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've heard a lot of points today. Some you can swallow, some you can't. And I'll just say this: the public engagement process that this organization, the process that it uses, is all about the public. It goes to the public long before it comes to this board. And for someone to state that they haven't had the opportunity, or that they should go first, prior to the discussion that's happening here, guess what? They did. And if you didn't take part in the engagement, then that's bad on you. But you have, this board bends over backwards to take public comments and bring them to the board and show them those comments and have us make sure that that's part of the process. And I just can't let that stand. It's an irresponsible statement. Secondly, I'll just say this: I think this is a great plan. I can, all these are challenging to put together, right? You can't please everyone, and opinions are like, right? Yeah. With that, it's with great pride that I make the motion that we accept, the 2015 8-hour ozone.
Something maybe on there about, saying that we want to make sure that that's not our responsibility of the pesticides.
It's, friendly to me.
Okay, so I'm gonna
I'll
continue the
second it.
discussion. We have a first and a second. Now I'm gonna go to Member Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. I just had further comment. And again, this is my opinion. In the state of California, with our COGS, our local COGS that each county has, the state is beginning to put more and more on them to do that should stay at the local level, which is right now, we've been told that the state of California is going to get local COGS into housing issues, regulating housing. So I kind of see this with the language that's in this, this ordinance today, as being a bite. You know, it's kind of like a slippery slope. It's kind of like a little bit of pork, although maybe we don't have any authority yet. But if the language is in there, it's like, you know, sticking your foot in the door to make sure that you're going to get it done in the future. So I would hope that we would support not, you know, to take that language out of this report that we're going to look at approving today. And if our staff has to redress it at some other point, if the state mandates that we do certain things, then fine. As I understand from our legal staff, it doesn't have any bearing, but it's always the slippery slope. And that's what I'm concerned about, is when you have language in a report, then you can always come back and say, well, it was in the report, so now we have to address it. So that's just my taking on that. And I know that the state is probably going to force this organization to do things that we haven't done in the past. But if we can take, you know, an opinion and run with it at this particular time, then I would say let's do it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I feel like it's my responsibility to clarify this again, but maybe with a little bit more detail on it. The board doesn't have the authority to eliminate the DPR measure in the plan, and the reason for that is because it's not our measure. It's included in a previously adopted state plan, so only CARB has the authority to remove that measure. Now, if the board wanted to make a recommendation to CARB that they remove the measure, the board has the full authority to do that. If you didn't want to adopt our plan because you didn't like CARB's measure, your board would have the authority to do that. I would advise against it because our plan satisfies the federal requirements. It's a reasonable plan. It's bold and it's consistent in our view with all the principles and all the values that the board has and direction that we've gotten from the board. It's made very, very clear about that an option to actually remove that measure is not available to you from a legal perspective.
I wasn't particularly talking about the plan, but the language of the pesticides, which is what is the concern today.
Yeah, so that, again, that's why, let me just, a little bit more detail on that. The language around pesticides is in the form of it's actually in the state SIP, not in our portion of the plan. It's actually in the 2022 state SIP that was adopted back in September. So that language you're referring to, it's capturing a commitment in the state measures, a little bit of language explaining the commitment. That's already been adopted by CARB back in September. And that's not the subject of today's recommendation, or it's not part of today's action with our plan. That's already been adopted by CARB.
I think Craig's motion was to recommend remove from the state plan. I think that's what he was getting at.
I think there may have been a friendly amendment that Supervisor Peterson was okay with recommending that. I think removal, or I was going to try to capture that, but a recommendation related to
Even in no.
making sure the authority was clear, right? Because the way it's written right now, it's a DPR commitment. It's not CARB or us, and DPR does have the authority to to regulate pesticides. So
I'm gonna ask council to clarify.
I just wanted to also clarify, the only reason it's being discussed here today is because it was proposed in a comment letter to the district. And so as part of this discussion, raising the significant comments and the district's responses to them, it really isn't part of the plan in any respect. It was just a comment that was brought up to the district in comment letters to the district. And so, as part of our public engagement process, addressing all significant comments. But, as part of that, explaining and clarifying that it's not part of this plan, the district has no regulatory authority to approve or disapprove the pesticide regulation that's already been adopted by CARB.
I'll call for the question.
Okay, so the clarification is the motion was to adopt and recommend that the pesticide component be taken out of the state SIP, right? It's just a recommendation. Is that okay with the second, the maker of the motion? Any other comments? Seeing none, we're gonna go ahead and vote.
Mr. Bessinger,
Yes.
Mr. Chiesa,
Aye.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Mendez,
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Warner,
Yes.
Mr. Pereira,
Aye.
Mr. Peterson,
Aye.
Mr. Preciado,
Aye.
Dr. Sheriff,
Yes.
Ms. Shucklian,
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. And Jesse, again, this is tough work and appreciate all you do
Thank you so much.
along with your staff. Okay, we're gonna move on to item 14, appoint ad hoc subcommittee for hearing board reappointments.
we are going to move in a very expedited fashion, given where we are right now. So I'll turn to Morgan for a quick background and for quick appointments by you and the board.
Yeah, just by way of quick background, the state law requires us to have 3 different hearing boards that hear petitions for variances and abatement orders and other things here at the District Administrative Matters. Each of those boards by statute has to have 5 members that are appointed by your board. One has to be an attorney, one has to be a registered professional engineer, a medical professional, and then 2 at-large public members. All of those members serve 3-year terms, which are staggered to maintain continuity of those board functions. And so we're at the point in time now that the current medical professionals will expire at the end of February. And so we're here asking that your board, as per normal practice, appoint a subcommittee, ad hoc subcommittee to consider whether or not those members should be reappointed to serve an additional term. Right now, the people that are up for reappointment are in the central region, which is Madera, Fresno, Kings County represents those counties, and the southern region, which represents Tulare and Kern County. And the past practice has been to have 2 board members from each of those areas to serve. So we'd be looking today for 2 members from the central region and 2 members from the southern region to serve on the ad hoc committee.
Say the counties one more time. Central.
Madera, Fresno, Kings.
Madera, Fresno, King. All right. Who are the 2 volunteers right now? Supervisor Mendez. Who's the other? Mayor Preciado.
Okay.
There you go.
Yep.
Easy as that.
And then the last from Tulare and Kern. I think right now we only have 2 members from there. So.
Okay.
I'll bet on that one.
Okay. And member couch?
Yes.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you all for being willing,
Thank you.
for being willing to serve.
Being forced to do it, Amy.
Okay, on to item 15, verbal report on California Air Resources Board, CARB activities. Dr. Pacheco Warner.
Yeah, I think you can see in our in the link in terms of some of the updates of what we're doing right now. I mean, today the state is adopting the scoping plan for the next several years that outlines the path to decarbonization. But I think I want to focus my comments on just the reflection of 2022 and just really commending our staff, from Ryan's staff, Shiraz's staff, and certainly, daily engagement from Samir and Tom and, just everybody. The collaboration this year has been intense. And I think it's been so amazing to see that, people supporting and going as a united front
speaking to our federal partners and adopting ambitious things like we just did today. I think, just really thank you to our staff for the level of collaboration that I've seen happen with CARB over this last year, and looking forward to meeting the challenge again next year as we continue to adopt even more ambitious goals and measures. Thank you.
Thank you. And one last comment for you, and I know I said something to Samir, but if you ever think you need support from this board at the CARB hearings, someone will show up and lend you a voice. So, because we appreciate your representation.
Yeah, thank you. I think definitely as we come to some of those conversations around decarbonization, I think it'll be helpful.
Thank you. Okay, executive committee, or executive director comments, number 16.
I'll just whittle it down to one. I just wanted to make sure the board was aware and about an incident that we had down in Kern County. Just want to give a general description of what happened. There's an ongoing investigation there, but actually we had in our community air monitoring that we do. Just give you an example of the types of things that we do and just how much we want to partner with our communities. We do community air monitoring through the AB 617 program, and we actually there was an assault actually during one of our air monitoring campaigns. Fortunately, nobody's injured or anything like that, but there is an investigation going on. I will keep the board and the public informed as that develops. But I just wanted to just give recognition to the teams that are out there day in, day out, that are doing this kind of work. And it does get unfortunately there are times where there's it's more difficult than other times. So I just wanted to also express appreciation to the chair and Supervisor Couch, who've both been really involved in making sure that our team is supported as we take a look at the situation and what could be done to make sure it's addressed. So I appreciate that support. And lastly, just wanted to wish everybody just a happy holiday season, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everybody out there, and appreciate the public who's participated all year, including with this last item, with the ozone plan item. Just a lot of appreciation for all the comments, and hoping everybody has a great holiday season.
Perfect. Move on to board comments?
Very quickly, Mr. Chairman, just wanted to say thank you for all the nice comments I received today, and I didn't get to say anything about Tom, but we'll miss you, buddy, and we'll miss this opportunity. The thing that is recurring in this is it's really about it's a relationship business, and so I'll miss all the relationships.
Yeah, thank you. Ditto.
Speaker. Speaker.
Oh, ditto. I just want to say again, I want to thank everybody. And one thing I forgot to say is that I've used a lot of these things that we do here that I think are always forward and above most even counties, like the Star Awards. We got we don't call it Star Awards, but I started that when I was chairman 4 or 5 years ago in the county, and we started doing that. We just had one Tuesday, and it's I think it helps the teamwork that they know we support them, and I think that's very important. And I just thank all of you for all the work we've done together, and I will miss all of you, but I'll come down once in a while just so Manuel can calm me down. So thank you, guys.
Perfect. Member Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to thank the nomination committee for having faith in me to nominate me to serve as the vice chair of this committee, and also to all the board members who elected me to serve as well. I take it to heart and a privilege to be able to serve in that capacity. And thank all the wonderful staff for the hard work that you guys do. It's really appreciated, and especially the level of customer service, not just to the public, but to this board. You guys do a really great job to try to help us out up here and in our community. So I really appreciate it, and I just want to wish everybody a wonderful Christmas, a very Merry Christmas, and a happy and safe New Year. Thank you.
Member Mendez.
I have to leave. I have to actually drive to Dinuba to chair a GSA meeting in an hour. So I want to make sure I get there. So I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'm gonna miss you guys.
We'll be
Tom
around.
and Craig, but I know I can go see Craig. He's pretty close by.
Right.
But I'm gonna miss the thing I always love to do is have lunch with the staff and the board. That's one of my favorite things of the month.
Yep.
And I just think our director's doing a great job, and so is our council. So when you guys get into closed session, that's how I feel.
Perfect. And our first in-person meeting, look at this, 11 folks showed up today. Governance is better face-to-face because it is a relationship business. So I appreciate everyone taking time to drive to Fresno and or be in one of the other offices. It really works well. And again, we're going to move on to closed session right now. And do I
That's
turn
right.
it over to Annette?
Right, closed session item, public employee performance evaluation of the executive director, APCO, and the district council. And we do need to call for public comment very quickly before we go into closed session.
Perfect.
No public comment in Fresno or online?
Any
No
public
public comment
comment
in
in
Bakersfield?
the regions?
No public in Modesto, so thank you. That
Okay,
concludes
thank you. We can go into closed session now.
Good question. Okay, so we're going to adjourn this meeting to closed session.